Sorry, I missed you bouncing off.
Alright, and welcome to round number 2 of the Australasian Sim Racing Super 2 Championship for season 2021. And tonight in the commentary box, we've got Benjamin Rhodes, aka Rhodey. How's it going, Rhodey?
It's good, thank you, Lewis. It's funny, at the end of the last stream, we were joking about me getting back into the racing at some point this season, and that's not an option because we've added 3 cars, and yet every car is taken.
Yeah, it does seem that this series seems to continue to go to, or from strength to strength, and yeah, the addition of 3 cars has seen still the grid being packed out. So fantastic to see so many drivers being interested in the Super 2 series. Also seen some old faces return, so it's good to see Mike Coulston and especially Gary Neville, who we haven't seen for a little while, back out onto the racetrack in ASR land. So good to see. We are in qualifying right now, so might as well get ourselves up and ready. And it looks like Daniel Cox will be the first man to attempt to set a time here, Rhodey. And he was quite handy in the practice session as well.
It was. There was, it was a little bit of chaos coming out of the pit lane, and a little bit of chaos obviously in the practice session as well with this many cars. Obviously, a nice big track for the cars to get out and spread around on, but Tomo sitting in P2 behind Coxie was swearing black and blue that Coxie must have been doing, a full qualifying run that early. It was something like 2/10 quicker than Tomo, who was in turn a second quicker than Matt Cecil in third. So if that translates to race pace, Coxie and Tomo early odds-on favourites for at least one win tonight.
Yeah, so Coxie, of course, finally getting his big break at the last round at Simmons Plains, which was the first round of the season after our dramas at Adelaide, but already looking quick in practice during the week, and of course in that previous practice session just earlier that you just mentioned. So he's looking to get on the front foot. We will go over the championship standings later on in the broadcast, but here we go. Might as well ride on board Mr. Cox as he heads into turn 1. And Rudy, you know this place. You've driven this circuit. Why don't you take us through a lap on board Daniel Cox around Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit?
Absolutely. So we've just missed turn 1, which in a supercar is just off flat. Coming through turn 2 now, you're in second gear up into third. You've got to watch the wheel spin. It's a very long corner to get on the throttle. Now he's up into fourth, up into fifth. You're flat through turn 3. It's really just a high-speed kink in a supercar. Down the brakes now for Honda. You got to make sure your brake bias is good or you'll be spinning the car back down to first, and you want to get on that exit curve without spinning your wheels up. He's managed to just about manage that perfectly. On his way now through Siberia, so named because of the icy cold winds that come up off Bass Strait onto the track at that corner. Now he's on his way up past what we all know as Hayshed, but Hayshed is actually not there anymore. You can see a big gap on the left of where the Hayshed would be. Now we're up over Lukey Heights, this nice long off-camber left going up and over the hill, then down into this right-hander, a nice bit of inverse camber at MG, and then we're out through turn 11, and this is sort of the point of where the straight sort of really starts for most cars, and then we're on through turn 12. You've got to be just off throttle in these cars. You see just a slight lift there from Coxie to get the front turned in, and then he's flat on the throttle all the way down the front straight till he gets back down to turn 1. And his first lap is a 1:32.608.
Yeah, so fairly handy time straight off the bat for Daniel Cox, and a bit of conjuncture and torque between the drivers in the lead up to this one. Drivers quite split between the soft and hard tyre. Of course, you do have to start the race on the compound tyre that you qualified on, and with that pace, one would assume that Coxie is on the soft tyre. So Coxie off to a flyer. Also fantastic to see our good friend Hans back in a race heat again, and he's gone straight to P3 as well. So great work from Hans, who's finally back in the race heat again. And we've also got Lachlan Burke up into second place. It's a bit quiet at Symmons Plains already, but it looks like he's finding his feet again.
Yeah, Berkey's very much about the torque of his pace, but he's actually managing to back up the torque with the walk so far in the walk and shore. I think Berkey was feeling quite good about how he's going to know. He's actually up on the pole time and his best time as well through the first section. He's got some chaos in front of him. There is one of the Nissans and Hans also pulling off to the side on the way into Siberia. Berkey, we didn't pin him right at the start of the season, but he's someone that's possibly emerging as a championship contender.
Yeah, round one, of course, not going his way, but the pace he's shown in ASC Super 2 and in the main series when he's raced there, as well as the ASR main championship as well, he certainly got a lot of pace on board. Unfortunately, stuck behind the Harvey Norman Nissan, and that's Glenn Miles going off the road there. He's still up though, even despite the 78 car getting in his way. I can't remember who's in that car, I do apologise.
That would be Cheese in that car.
Yeah, so Cheese just holding him up here. A little bit of slipstream coming down to the pit straight may help him, but I think he would have lost out just a little bit beforehand. So Burke will lose, well, he does improve his own time. It goes P2, but he could have definitely gone faster. Having a look at the live chat, another one of the newer drivers that's jumped on board. He's already got a bit of a fan club looking at the live chat here, Rhodey, but Josh Watson in 18th place has jumped on board. Fantastic to see another newcomer to ASR, and yeah, he's got a few guys in the live chat, Fabrizio Candiani and of course NZ Snipes following along, cheering him on. So I think a solid job here. It's an interesting circuit to start your supercar career on, Rhodey, because it's quite different to all the other ones that they're going to be going to.
Yeah, it's not a supercars style of circuit in that essence, where the supercars are kind of more at this point sort of point and squirt cars, and this is all about flow and keeping average speed up. It's immense to drive in a GT3 car, and even back when I was driving the Formula V, those things are more about grip than the power, and you weren't going very quick, but you keep the average speed up very well in those cars. These ones, obviously, not so much grip. Aero's there, but it doesn't really quite. It's obviously not GT3 levels of aero. So, you notice the cars we pitch and wobble around the corners, trying to balance between getting the front turn in, getting the power on, and it is going to be a trial by fire, I think, for Josh Watson. But he's proven himself well so far, and it's good to get another, I believe, Kiwi driver into the fold.
Yeah, another Kiwi. They seem to be, I wouldn't say infesting, that's the wrong word, but they're certainly, I think we've got half
breeding like rabbits is probably a good way to look at it.
As they've actually got Hans has gone to the top. I think the race car there of the aforementioned Josh Watson gave a bit of a tow down the pit straight there, helping him just a little bit. So Hans up to P1 ahead of Coxie and Burke, who we know Burke can go a little bit faster. But yeah, the Kiwis, I think we've got half the population of New Zealand actually racing at ASR at the moment. So it's good to see, and hopefully we can grab another quarter and get all of New Zealand on board here at ASR. Now, normally we would try and keep up with the goings on with live races, but it does seem to be coming on and off at the moment is live races, so can't quite keep up with it. I do apologise, but watching Turmo at the moment here, Rhodey, he's got a bit of traffic with Steve Warwick in front of him, who's actually just run off the road, but Turmo up on his own time and up on the pole time as well, so Turmo another one looking quite quick here.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, Turmo was one of the two guys challenging the top in practice, and Yeah, he's on a good pace so far. He's been lucky with the traffic there. The traffic was busy taking himself off the road, and he's got Matt Cecil as well in behind him, who's currently actually Tomo's just backed off from that lap. So I don't know whether there's been a bit of team communication. He is running in the same team as Matt Cecil, but we saw Tomo had the pace out of that first sector to be going on to hopefully going on to pole. So I don't know. I'm guessing he's backing off to have another crack at another slice of the pie.
Yeah, so clearly something not quite right. Perhaps just a little bit down on his personal best split and decided better to stop and reload. And I've had Brap move up to 13th place there. So Brap having a good go in the Truck Assist Techno Autosport car there. And another one that's come over from ASC to give ASR Super 2 a crack. Good to see. And hopefully he's in for a good night. Got Braxton Stancliff, who incidentally leads the championship after round one, Rody. But at the moment in qualifying, obviously he was one of the drivers affected by the the camera issue. So I don't know if he's actually got that back again now that it's ticked over into the qualifying session. But a little bit uncharacteristic to see him down in 13th place at the moment, it has to be said.
Yeah, it's possibly just a lack of practice, I would say. Or it might just be, again, Braxton is very quick. We've seen his pace in a supercar over the last 12 months. But it's possible that, again, this not being a supercar's track in the way that every other track is a supercar's track, that he just isn't gelling with it. And I suppose, even when I think across to New Zealand, what there is like this, and there's not quite any tracks over there with the sort of flow that he might have had some experience on in a supercar or without. So it is surprised to see Braxton as far down as 12th. The one driver I did actually want to mention, although he is starting to drop to actually no, he's made his way back up, is Gary Neville, who you mentioned earlier. I haven't seen him since we were running under the AMS Oz nameplate, but he's in 6th at the moment.
Yeah, he's done a really good job. We've also got Matt Cecil in 4th place, has done a good job. So qualifying, as you can see, has just come to an end here, with drivers just finishing their laps. And Steve Warwick right there also jumping up 8/10 on his personal best right at the death there as well. So great work from Steve Warwick. Cam Rutledge, another one that jumped in. So he's normally a main series driver, but has just, after the first 2 rounds of the main championship, has decided that he needs a little bit of extra running, and he wanted to jump in one of the free cars in Super 2 to get some more racing under his belt, and he finds himself in P7, so it's good to see him out there and giving it a crack. Gary Neville, as you say, great first effort back out in ASR, and 8th place, a solid effort from him. Liccardo in 9th, of course, 2 race wins at Simmons Plains, so a little bit uncharacteristic there, but perhaps he's on the hard tyre. That is another thing that we do have to consider. Leonard Grossel in 10th. McLean Leonard, I reckon that is a fantastic effort from where we've seen him in the past, Rody. So to see him 11th place and only 1.5 seconds off the pace, massive improvement.
I've just something else that might come into play this as well, and we'll talk about it soon, obviously, with the strategy for this race. But the ruling being that you start the race on the set you qualify on, there's a good chance that what we're seeing potentially here is also the split between the guys who reckon they can do either a single soft or a double soft strategy versus the guys who are banking on a hard.
Yeah, that is certainly an option. I think we may have a couple of drivers that we would expect to be a little bit closer to the front of the field, to be a little bit further down. Of course, do expect Dane to probably be a little bit higher up than what he is there. Higginson, normally he's a little bit quicker and closer to the front as well, and even Braxton, do expect him to be a little bit closer to the front, so perhaps those guys just taking the more conservative approach of the hard tyre, because the hard tyre we know will make the distance, the soft tyre won't. So if it won't make the distance, or if it, maybe there's a lap, you're only half a lap short, drivers on the soft may just drive it easier, or they may even make a pit stop and just drive hard or race. So there will be a lot more to manage for those guys, but it's certainly mixed up the grid a little bit.
Yeah, I know that Lachlan Burke was one of the guys claiming pretty strongly that he reckoned he could get a single set of softs through the race. One thing that will potentially help these guys with the amount of cars, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a safety car just in the early stages. They want to try to sort themselves out. and that will help the guys that are running softs. But obviously, we saw last week and the lead up to it, Dane swearing black and blue that you could not do softs were not a viable option at Simmons, and then came into the race night and ran softs all through. I believe
all throughout the weekend, I believe.
Two, if not all three of the races. Same situation. Same situation here. Dane's pretty confident that the hards aren't going to be good enough, but that the softs aren't going to be good enough. But there's every chance that he might be trying to pull a sneaky again.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see. I'm getting some communication saying there may be a server reset due to the random vehicle collision mismatch that Steve Warwick's getting, and at the moment the server has it set, so if you do have any kind of mismatch, you'll be kicked from the race. Speaking of from personal experience, I've had the vehicle collision mismatch both in R Factor and of course in AMS. It's actually nothing to do with your file. Well, it is something to do with the files, but it's actually quite difficult to pinpoint what it actually is and how to change it. It's not like Steve's out there trying to cheat with an HDV mismatch or a VH mismatch or anything like that, but it's just one of those AMS and R Factor legacy problems that arises from time to time. So we may see a server reset here, but in the meantime, we'll try and bring up the points standings. I'm just going to sort out the HUD and find a little pretty view to have as a background. And yeah, just bear with me a second. I believe this one is good enough. So here we are. This is the driver's points after round 1 of the championship. And Braxton Stancliff leads the way on 285. Didn't win a race all weekend. But Rody, consistency. It is a very important trait for a driver to not only pick up good points, but to also win a championship. And Stancliff didn't make a mistake all weekend and finds himself in the lead in the championship after round 1.
Yeah, and that's it. And consistency is what's going to get you towards the top across the length of a championship. Having outright pace does help, but if you can't consistently back up that outright pace, and obviously Dane in round 1 being a good example, the 2 wins, and then I believe it was the 12th place finish in the third race that really fooled his run. But yeah, Braxton, obviously Cox, he's up there in second as well. Obviously, he did get his big break in the third race, but that was also down to being in or about in the mix. Obviously, third in the first race. Unfortunately, the reverse top 10 didn't quite pay dividends for him. He ended up down 8th in the second race. Yeah, it's consistent that's keeping this very tight because, yeah, Dane's earned 2 wins, but not only is he not first, he's in third, and the guys behind him aren't too far behind. Kempy's sitting on 261. Again, just getting some top 10s, and the same with Leonard and 258.
Yeah, so unlike the start of the, I think it was the Summer Series as well as the Summer Series, I should say, we did have Tim Redmond pretty much just walk away earlier on in the championship. We also had early on in the last year's Super 2 Championship, we had Liam Mitch and Steve Burko, the 2 teammates there, just walk away from the rest of the field. So far, from what we've seen in practice, and from round 1 and the pre-season, well, the Adelaide kerfuffle, at least the lap times there, Rhodey, it looks like it's very, very close, and this season's going to throw us a few curveballs, and it's going to make for an interesting championship.
Yeah, and like we already sort of had ideas on who we thought might win just based on the pace factor, but obviously with some of the shuffling that we've had, obviously Hans missing the first round, he's back in there now, so he is a round short than everyone else, but we identified him as being one of the guys from the last season that still remains this season, who is likely to have the pace to be challenging for the championship. But yeah, Braxton's got so far the consistency, Coxey's up there, Dane, Kempy, and Lennox has been vying for a supercars seat, and them not being forthcoming, he's sitting Super 2 at the moment, but he's been smoking the field in nearly every other series he's been a participant in. The supercars haven't quite come to him as of yet, but if he's able to turn that pace in a supercar as well, he's possibly at risk of at the back end of the season maybe running away with it as well.
Yeah, so it may not be, he might not have outright speed in the supercar just yet, but what we have seen in the other series he's running in the minis, the TCAC series, and I'm not sure if he's running the F3s, but even the GT3s, very, very, very consistent, and well, I don't think I've actually seen him make a mistake yet, so he's one that if drivers do trip over each other, he will pick up points, so even though he may not pick up wins or a heap of podiums, he'll be there or thereabouts if he's around all season. Coxey, of course, in 5th place with his breakthrough. Freakish, a solid round. Same with Peter Thrower and Taipan, but all those guys did have an up and down round, and they'll be looking to sort that out. Justin Cecil in 9th through. I'm trying to think if he's here tonight. I'm not sure if he is. Can't remember if it was him or Lockie Lock that said they couldn't make it. No, it's Cecil. Lockie Lock is in the server I'm seeing on live races, and of course we've got Cheese rounding out the top 10. They're the only standings we have at the moment. I haven't got a splash screen for the other point standings, but yeah, interesting to say the least, and we'll just bring up the calendar here. So of course Adelaide has been rejigged for later on in the year, and we will be going to Queensland Raceway next on the 14th of May, followed by Barbagallo Raceway, and then we have Hidden Valley, Calder Park, Sydney Motorsport Park, and then of course Adelaide, Pukekohe, Reed Park Street Circuit will round out the season. Reed Park Street Circuit, for those that don't know the official name, is actually Townsville, so that's the official name of it. And we have ticked over to the race session, and it looks like we've had a number of drivers actually have their game crash, so we'll probably be in line for a server reset here.
Yeah, I was going to say they wouldn't be the only one. I did also have I'm only spectating, and despite having the graphics wind down like I've had to do with for the last 2 years, I also get a game crash. So it's a beautiful job, and for those that don't know, the part of the reason the track looks so good tonight is because of the work Lewis has done in really polishing up some of the aspects of the track. The racing service itself was always pretty close too, but Lewis has done some work on the pit buildings. Obviously, he's removed the hay shed and done some other work around the track. It's a great looking track, but we're starting to fight this battle now with within some of the series we run, where you can have a really nice looking track, but then it just doesn't like to run. And we yet to see a complete solution where we can get tracks that look as good as this one does, without potentially causing issues. Because I think last year we were having issues with a copy of Simmons Plains, and there was a couple of little tracks where even those with a pretty even decent PCs have to start turning the graphics down a little bit to accommodate.
Yeah, so a lot of those issues aren't so much down to the quality of the tracks, although it does sometimes take a toll. It's more so down to the optimization of Automobilista, and unfortunately, it's only a 32-bit game. It cannot take high textures and a heap of polys, as well as a lot of cars. So unfortunately, in that aspect, it's not as high detailed, or you can't have as much detail as what you'd like, but yeah. Pardon me, I'm just going to sore throat. But yeah, I think just a couple additions to this track. Just the pits in general, I think, just look a lot better now. They've got pit booms and the garages and stuff, and all they've done really is just change the grass and a few signage on the outside. Isn't much, but it actually does change the look of it quite a bit, so it does look a lot nicer than what it did previously. But just in the warm-up at the moment, just waiting for some drivers to get back in the service. Steve Rourke's still got that vehicle collision mismatch, and now I'm not sure, Rhodey, if he did get booted from the race session that did when it did get ticked over there, so maybe he may stay in the game. I'm not sure. Hopefully he does. Otherwise we'll need to do probably a full server restart here.
From what I can see, it looks like he made it through to the race session. The drivers that got kicked as we moved to the race session were Taipan and Matt Cecil. Taipan with a game crash, according to Braxton Stancliff, and I'm guessing maybe just the the effort of trying to pick up 26 cars and move them over a session, maybe just taking the toll on Matt's end as well. We've known Matt's having technical issues. So it's a bit of a joke whenever there's any sort of precipitation in Matt's area. That's normally a sign that something's going to go wrong for him. Very spotty internet, it seems, up his way in North Queensland.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you live up in Queensland. You get crappy weather and you're out in the middle of nowhere. So rest in peace, all those people up there. So for those that are wondering where the race is, we're just in the warm-up session. Just had a few people have the game crash, as well as some other issues. So I've had to restart and go back to the warm-up. We'll be ticking over shortly.
Something interesting to note, actually, I've just picked up on, and I suspect
he must have
this
asked
is
for it.
intentional. Yes, okay, yeah. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Hans Brunswick starting off the back of the grid,
and there we go.
there's
Steve
Steve's
been
mismatch.
booted. So yeah, there we go. So I did tell Stephen that probably need to restart the server and change that setting with the mismatch there. I'm guessing that's probably due to the amount of cars actually. Sometimes if you've got something under the same name in a different folder, sometimes it does give that mismatch.
Yeah, I believe we are restarting. I see Hans doing some decent burnouts on the front straight, so I believe we are looking at a server restart. And all the cars are going.
Yeah, so I do apologise for this delay, but unfortunately just Automobilista things at the moment. So we'll be out of action probably for about 5 minutes or so. So me and Rody are going to have to spitball for just a little bit here. What I'm going to try and do actually, I'm going to go back and try and find the results from the summer series if I can here, and just sort of give a recap of what happened here in that summer series, because we did have some really good racing back then, Rody.
We did, yeah. I'm gonna go and have a dig as well. I believe I know where I'm looking for that. Will be.
Now, of course, there was different settings in place back in the summer series. So currently in the server at the moment, it was it's currently set to 2 times tire wear and 2 times fuel wear rate. And we've got 3 12-lap races. While in the summer series, there's only 9 lap races, but there was 4 times tire wear, 4 times fuel rate. And we had a number of drivers try and stick it out on the hard tyres and save fuel, and save themselves probably about 35 to 40 seconds for a pit stop, Brody. If I had to just guesstimate how long a pit stop, including transit time, would take.
On average, obviously, per track it varies, but it's about 30, 35 to 40 seconds is probably about the average for the tracks we were running at.
Yeah, and they're just trying to save themselves a pit stop. So in race 1, I think it was race 1 anyway, we had Hans take out the win. He no stopped looking at these times. His best was a 35.8.
If we're looking,
actually, no, that was race 2.
Summer series. That was race 2. Race 1 winner was NZ Snipes.
Yeah, NZ Snipes winning race 1, and Kiwi 1-2. He's got Stancliff home in second. Now those guys, they did the no stop strategy, hard tyres, and obviously they were travelling around probably 3 to 4 seconds a lap slower than what you could on softs. And they beat out a fast finishing Lime Mitch, who in both races went the I'm putting softs on, going as fast as I can strategy. His fastest lap was a 132.8, while NZ Snipes, the race winner, a 35.7. So almost 3 seconds difference, 2.8 seconds difference in the fastest lap between those two tyres. And that's the difference between saving fuel and tyres and just going hell for leather like Lime Mitch did. But you did see Lime Mitch just blazing through the field after his pit stop, and we saw him also there, Rody. He was passing people around the outside of places that you don't really think of a car passing another one in a racing situation.
No, and it was just the advantage he had running, especially after he stopped. He was on fresh soft tires compared to the guys out there on used hard tires, and he just had the grip to just put the car pretty much wherever he wanted around this track. And that was a challenge for the guys running softs, is they had to get a good qualifying run, or at the very least get a good start and then clear out from the guys on hard tires. So they were bogged back with the guys on hard tires and couldn't make a pass. Their strategy was ruined because it relied purely on them having pace. They needed to get out in front and set as big a margin as they possibly could to the guys on hards, pit, and then do the effort to then also recover that margin, because you were going to drop back behind them. But it was up to you and how hard you drove in that first stint as to how much you'd have to do in the second stint. But it proved, even for someone of Lime Mitch's pace, that it just wasn't quite doable.
I do believe early on in that race he was held up just a little bit for the first lap or two, which did cost him. Hans was another one that tried the one stop in race one, and he was also sort of held up in some battles, and I think there may have been contact at some point, but certainly some good overtaking there. And then, of course, race two, Hans changed it up and went the no stop, and he and Tim Redmond had a very, very intriguing battle. Hans sitting in second place and in the lead for some of it, but for the most part, he was just trying to stick with Tim Redmond, trying to stick with him and save fuel. And then I think it was with 2 laps to go, Rody, he decided he's got enough fuel and he went for it. And he was able to just steal it at the death and would come home just 1/10 of a second ahead of Tim Redmond, who of course went on to take the championship. So Hans there showing he's got pace, but he's also got the smarts to go with obviously a pretty handy steer as well.
Yeah, and that was the, and it's not like Hans would be the only one at that back of that was sort of Hans's big forte with that. And I suppose his big forte generally is that he's a racer with pace, but he's someone who takes the time to sit down and calculate the strategies, and he's someone that very much like he's been known at racetracks, and I've been there with him. He's been talking to engineers, and if you're asking questions, engineers can't answer. He is that far into the depths of not only how to drive a race car, but how to make a race car drive quickly. And yeah, and I'd say a bit of a copybook play, a bit of a play out of your copybook there, Lewis. The sit behind someone for a good part of the race, just picking up fuel and tire usage over them, and then just popping out at the last minute to make the pass for the win.
Yeah, he did a great job. Like Mitch, again, going the one-stop strategy route in that second race there, and he was on track to make it very, very interesting. But I do recall he had an incident somewhere, 3 or 4 laps to go, which sort of ended his charge there, and he eventually just had to settle for fifth place. But again, he put on a bit of a show with some overtaking. I think he may have even been battling with Hans earlier in that race, which did cost a little bit of time as well. But yeah, going to be interesting once we do get going again. So again, do apologise for these server issues. I'm trying to get back in at the moment here, but I haven't been able to find the server as of yet. So just again, do apologise. We'll try and get this going as soon as possible. As well, that doesn't help. The game's just crashed, but yeah. Looks like the server is back up though, because I can see it on live races.
Yeah, I've just sent a message from Nether, who's hosting the server for us tonight. The server is not releasing its locks to Matchmaker for people to join. So the server is up, it's just not quite all the way up. So
Interesting.
there'll be another reboot for the server.
Oh dear. And we just want a smooth night, but Automobilista at the moment not wanting to play ball, which is a bit of a shame. But thankfully it is a Friday night, and for the most part, people don't have work the next day and can go out and still have a crack in all races tonight. But yeah, hopefully this is able to get sorted fairly quickly.
Yeah. I'm just running back. It's just over a year ago now that obviously that the lockdown kicked in for I suppose the world really, and that's what saw the increase in numbers that we got. Super 2 being one of the most favorite ones. I think we went from Simmons Plains to Pukekohe, and we went from, I believe it was 8 or 9 drivers in the field to 23
Well, yeah,
in
it
one
was
round.
more than that. So this is going just solely from memory. So the Simmons Plains round, initially we had 8 drivers, but I think we finished the night with 6. It was either 6 or 7 in the final race of the Simmons Plains round. And the next round at Pukekohe, the grid was packed. There was no free seats left, and we actually had drivers having to wait for empty seats to get a seat to get into the series. And yeah, we had 23, at least 23. I think we maybe even had 25 or 26 guys show up in the end in that one. So it was a massive, massive grid for a very short Pukekohe Park Raceway circuit. And from there, we've been able to maintain the numbers. So it's been fantastic that even after COVID or the main lockdowns and all that have ended, we've been able to get back out there, and people have enjoyed their time and have come back and stayed with it. So fantastic to see, and hopefully they can put on a show here once we do get going again. Just trying to go through the results as well here, Rhodey, of the Super 2 round that was ran here as well. So that was, I think, a 2 race. That was 2 races in the 2020 Super 2 season, which Tim Redmond, who's moved up to the Supercar Championship, he won race 1 ahead of Liam Mitch. Won that comfortably in the end, 7 seconds over Liam Mitch, who's no slouch. Noah Turra in third, and Coxey was just short of a podium there in that one. He finished 4th. And then in race 2, you had Stancliff taking the win ahead of Matt Cecil. So Cecil having a very good run in that one, with Wayne Spencer, who's no longer with us in the league, in third, and Tim Redmond, uncharacteristic 4th place there. Can't remember too much from either of those 2 races, but that's how it all went down last year. That was round 11 of the Super 2 series, and this time around it's it was scheduled to be round 3, but it's actually round 2 with
Yeah, I believe
the
we were
Adelaide issues.
running we were essentially running the 2017 calendar last year, which I think was, well, actually, it wasn't even 2017,
That
but
was
yeah,
the
there was
summer
a point.
series. That was the summer series that ran the 17
Summer
calendar.
series. Okay, but there was a point of the calendar where Phillip Island was almost essentially an enduro, and was nearly part of the Enduro Cup with its positioning and the races it was running. I think sort of back in the mid to the sort of mid 2010s, early 2010s, was Phillip Island. It's obviously it's more running now, more sort of a sprint race, especially of note with that was the tire deg that happened, I believe, in 2017 at Phillip Island. We had blowouts, I think, I'm pretty sure most of them, all the Tickford cars, as an example. And I think a good half of the grid suffered them, and it was because they were running too high a camber and running too lower pressures from memory.
Typical
Um,
supercar problem.
but I've lost where I was going with that, actually. But no, it's gone. It's gone. It's completely gone.
Yeah, rip. But
Rip.
it's got good news though. The server is back up.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
I've jumped back into the server now. Hans in the chat to he's saying that this round has been terminated. Uh, so probably I think he's saying something to Termo there as well. But what we did pick up on actually when it did tick over for the race session was we did see in the grid batch file that Hans went to last place. So I can't remember if he's got any penalties outstanding that he's having to serve, or if he's asked for that. But I'm going to hazard a guess that he's asked for that, Rhodey. And if he has, well, I think he's ever the showman, Hans. I think he's just going to go. He wanted to do that to just go out there and just probably see how many cars he could pass into turns 1 and 2, I'd say.
Yeah, Hans was definitely harbouring, I think, championship ambitions before the season started. And then, unfortunately, personal situation meant that he couldn't make the first round, and that sort of took the wind out of that for him. But Hans definitely is feeling like he's he's got the pace to. In my words, not his, but the way he's been talking, it feels like he's got the pace to just pants the field. He did already say that he went in earlier and he turned off all his assists. Granted, I'm not sure if he was planning on running them anyway, but he went and turned off all his assists just to try and, in his mind, bridge the gap between himself and some of the other cars out there. So even then, he's possibly still got championship winning pace, but. I think, amongst other things for Hans, this is just he's just out there to have some fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing that you really want from any series, and what at least myself as an admin would like people to sort of do a little bit more of is just to just go out there and just have a bit of fun, especially this Super 2 series. Just go out there. Yeah, there's a lot of cars. There's a lot of margin for getting caught up in other people's incidents. We just like to see people just go out there, have a crack, and have a bit of fun. So if that's the mindset he's taking, then you can't lose really. If all you're doing is just gonna go out there in a relaxed atmosphere or relaxed mindset and just have fun. But just seeing in the live chat, supposedly this is hasn't been confirmed yet. Just hearing this from Scott Nolan that supposedly Hans had the wrong gear ratio selected, wrong final drive, and that's why he got put to the back there. So very, very interesting if that's the case. Hans trying to cheat the system. He wouldn't try and do that, would he? But
that would be an achievement in that we're running the stand final drive ratio, which you'd have to change off of to be getting wrong. But it's entirely possible. And I've just noticed we're seeing Steve again with vehicle collision mismatches.
But the server allows it this time, so
server allows it actually. So he will be good. And vehicle collision again is just a random thing that AMS does that seems to have no actual effect aside from kicking you if you're in a server that doesn't allow you to have mismatches.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's not possible that Hans has done it, but you'd have to almost be trying to either that or he did change out of one of the. Well, even then, he's in a different car to the last time he ran, which was in what became the unofficial preseason testing at Adelaide. He was obviously not so much obviously, but he was originally planned to be in the number 9 alongside myself in the 99 to sort of, amongst other things, pay an homage to the Ultimate 9 racing team that we run as a part of in ASC. But he's obviously now in one of the new Raise Energy racing cars painted by Daniel Cox, and so I don't think any setups would have transferred over. But if that's the case, then credit to Hans, other things, for sticking his hand up and saying, "Yeah, look, this was me, and I've made a mistake here, and I deserve a penalty for it."
Yeah, and just seeing in the chat, Scott Nolan saying, "Why would I lie to him? Why would I lie to you?" I'm not doubting you, but you just never know. He said supposedly it was it was an accident, and he was rev limiting by the bridge over the start finish line. So yeah, that is a long time to be limiter bashing in any car.
That says something then of his pace, because he was still in the top 10.
Well, I believe he put on pole position, so clearly it didn't hinder him at all.
Yeah.
Would have cost him down, obviously, when he was on the limiter from the start finish line, pretty much is where it is, all the way down to turn 1. But everywhere else, though, you don't really use all those revs, so it probably would have been a bit of an advantage. But here we go. We have ticked over to the race session. Everyone looks like they're in and ready. Looks like we're finally about to get going here for race number 1 from Phillip Island.
Yeah, so we've ended up with a 24-car grid, which I believe is what we had coming out of qualifying. I don't think anyone's not made it back in, which is good to see. And we should start to see there we go. They're over there now with the cars moving over to the grid. So Yeah, good to see the turnout that we've got tonight, and yeah, if the races we're talking about earlier are anything to go off of, this could potentially throw some really interesting racing, especially the mix of strategy as it has so far at Simmons Plains this season.
Yeah, so drivers will still, of course, have to start the race on the compound that they qualified on. Another thing to take note of, as you can see from this new shot from the starting bridge, or the bridge that crosses the outside of the track to the pits, the grid here very, very tight together. So that is another thing these drivers are going to have to certainly look out for on the race starts. But Rody, we've got a long time this time, unlike Simmons Plains to run through the grid. So why don't you run us through the grid for race number 1 from Phillip Island?
Alrighty, on pole is Daniel Cox in the number 8 Brad Jones Racing car, the Timken Nick Percat car. Obviously, great run from Coxie. Obviously, he was top in practice and transferred that to top in qualifying. Second is Termo in the first of the Falcons for Botolo Racing with Tickford. Third is Lachlan Burke with Walking 200 United. Yeah, as we were saying earlier, good to see that Berkey's found some pace and he's transferred that across from ASC into ASR. Fourth is Matt Cecil, the second of the Falcons, the Super Chief Auto entry, with Darren Kemp in fifth. Good to see Kempy up the pointy end in qualifying. Steve Warwick in sixth, and now these issues are rectified, as it were. He's out ready to have a run. Cam Rutledge in seventh. He's coming across from CRE Race Engineering in the ASR main game and getting some more practice laps for the Phillip Island race in a week's time. With Gary Neville in eighth in the Rays Energy Racing Falcon. Ninth is Dane Liccardo in the Big Mate VF, and probably a bit further back than we've seen Dane so far. With Leonard Grossel in 10th in the Erebus Racing number 9. McLean Linnett in 11th in the Team 18 Commodore, with Nathan Higginson behind him in 12th. Cheese is the first not the first of the Nissans, actually, in 13th in the Shimano Di Silvestro car, with Braxton Stancliff in 14th. Long way off where we're used to seeing him, so I imagine he's on the hard tyre strategy.
And off the track there too.
And off the track too, just getting some extra texture on his tyres. Brapp in 15th in the Truck Assist entry, with Peter Thrower in 16th. Lachlan Locke in 17th. Freakish in 18th in the Drive Nissan. Cracker in 19th. Good to see Cracker back in the Monster Energy Falcon, with Taipan ending the top 20. Josh Watson, newcomer, in 21st in the Rays Energy Racing Nissan, with Glenn Miles back with us in the formerly Dimitri Milwaukee Racing Falcon. 23rd is Pierre Roy. Good to see Pierre made it in from Canada in the Gary Rogers Motorsport Commodore. And last, and probably hoping to put on a bit of a show, is Hans Brunswick in the Rays Energy Racing ZB Commodore.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a bit difficult to sort of catch out all those race cars because they all look the exact same. And the ZB and the Falcon with the front ends also look fairly similar when they're painted that way. But anyway, race 1, everyone's formed up pretty quickly. Thankfully, the lights are on and we're about to get underway here from Phillip Island. Away we go, no jump starts, a couple of drivers squirming all over the place. And it looks like Termo smoke everywhere, but Coxie, he's got his brake, he's got a big brake going into turn 1.
Yeah,
oh, and the 4 wide, 5 wide, and there's a car off. That's a Nissan. 2 Nissans in the fence there at the back. That's Freakish Cheese. And Gary Neville off as well. But just catches quick replay of that. Looks like Gary Neville got away fairly poorly. And he was just in the middle of that sandwich. Looks like Braxton was on the grass, outbroke himself, while also being on the grass, and snookered the Nissan, which then wiped out Gary and the 2 Nissans there. So disaster there, with a bit of friendly fire between the Kiwis, but Cox in the lead, Burke up to second, Termo's down to third, Cecil's held station, and we've got Dane, big dive at Siberia, and we'll go further back there, and so it looks like someone's gone off there. What happened?
Lachlan Locke, I missed it. I believe he spun himself off the exit of Honda with that painted curb, but in the end, I think it was contacted nose-to-nose contact with Cheese as well.
Oh, actually, no. It looks like contact from Braxton again there. He's just driven into the back of him on the exit, so not a good start for Braxton. But back live now, and Daniel Cox in the lead just. He's actually lost a little bit of time since his fantastic start, but the front three, a little bit of a gap over Matt Cecil, and then there's Darren Kemp and Liccardo. So one lap about to be in the books, and it is Cox, Burke, Turmo, Cecil, and we have Kemp, Liccardo, Steve Warwick, Rutledge, Bratt, Higginson, Gersel, Hans Brunswick already up to 12th, Braxton Stancliff, Thrower, Taipan, Cracker, Roy, Linnett, Glenn Miles, Cheese, and then we have Lachlan Locke, Gary Neville, Josh Watson, and Freakish there at the back. But looks like here, Brody, we've got a race on here at the front.
We do, yeah. Just going to cut back up to the field. A lot of cars come back up through the field to get to. But Berkey and Tomo have now picked up a little bit of the pace, and they're now just about keeping up with Coxie. Obviously, a little battle happening between themselves. I just had a big gap back to Matt Cecil, but last I saw, and I believe the battle has actually come down a little bit, but coming down the main straight as we're going through the field, Cam was sizing up a move on Steve Warwick, but decided better of it than trying to go too wide for a supercar at turn 1.
And we've got another battle pack here behind Brapp, who's had a good start. He's up 6 spots, avoided all the carnage. He's got Higginson right behind him, and then we've got Lennart and Hans, who's trying to work his way through the field. Lennart trying to go the long way around Lukey Heights and the inside at MG. Not quite close enough to get the move done on Higginson, who's right out sideways. That's something we're accustomed to seeing. And for some of us that are trying to help him get better, we end up tearing a hair out most races. But here we go. Do the final corner. Actually had a decent run through the initial part of the final corner, but actually got out of the throttle as he was a little bit unsettled. And that's going to give Gersel just enough encouragement and slipstream to have a look into turn 1, but not much of a braking zone at turn 1, so he's had to back out of it. Higginson had a better run through turn 1 than Brapp in front, and it's unsettled him a little bit because he had to get on the brakes a little bit more than what he would have liked. He can't quite get the nose in for turn 2 here, and Gersel's having a look as well. Hans is hoping, that they all just wipe each other out and he can just keep going. But very, very tight here. Hans now having a look up the inside of Gersel, and Higginson just parking his car in the middle. And, side by side here, 2 by 2. And Brapp just eking out ahead, and that is a position gain for Brunswick now. A little bit further back, looks like Lockie Locke also making a move. Gersel still not giving up that position, but lights up the rears, and Hans now taking that position. And Higginson having to get on the brakes there as we get to Hayshare. That's not something you see too often, so he's not confident in his car. He's all over the shop at the moment. Brapp's also wide. Hans going to just stick his nose in here and just compromise Higginson just a little bit as Hans gets a bit of a hurry up. He's right out sideways. Rear tyres aren't going to like that if he's on the soft tyre. Something tells me that, they're not going to last the race doing that. But going by the pace that they're at, I reckon Hans might be on the hard tyre here.
Yeah, I believe so. He's not quite cutting through the field as easily as he would like. It's interesting just noting the driving characteristics of the 3 cars in this battle. Higginson, obviously, he's picked up a bit of attention recently for overdriving the car. Obviously, Hans trying to come back through the field as opposed to Lennart, who we've already recognised is definitely on the more courteous side of things. And it's interesting then, obviously, we've got Braxton coming to the back as well. Just saw a bit of nose to tail between the 3 of them. Hans checking up mid-corner. Higginson got in the back of him, and Lennart got in the back of him, which ended up firing Higginson out of that train, and he's now back behind Braxton Stancliff.
Well, we just cut away from that because we've got to change for the lead. So into turn 1, or over the pit straight there, Lockie Burke getting by Daniel Cox, and Turmo now starting to apply the blowtorch to the rear of Coxie's number 8, Brad Jones Racing ZB Commodore. And Burke just getting away. These 3, bit of a gap over Matt Cecil. And the pace these guys are running at, I would have to say they're on the soft tyre in the low 33s. As Live Racers again decides to die. A little bit of a mistake though from Burke has enabled Cox to get right on the back of him there after he just edged away in the first half of the lap. So these 3 trying to get away, But the way it's going though, if these guys have to pit roadie, they've got a lot of time they're going to have to make up.
They do, and if they're trying to do, if Berkey is trying to do what he reckons he can do and do a single stint on these soft tyres, this sort of racing is not going to help him at all. He needs to be smooth and calm and calculated with his driving. If he's having to put up defensive, if he feels like he's having to put up defensive moves or change his line mid-corner, that's extra rubber coming off the tyres that he'll need at the back end of this race.
Yeah, so at the moment, the first three out on their own. Cecil also doing a really good job at the moment, but he's one that struggled with his tyres in the past. Kemp doing a good job in P5. A little bit further back, Liccardo up 3 spots. He's starting to come under a bit of pressure from Steve Warwick now, so you know, pace-wise, you'd expect Liccardo to be a little bit quicker, so perhaps he's maybe the first runner on the hard tyres here as Warwick tries to get a move done at Honda Corner. A little bit further back, Hans has got himself ahead of Cam Rutledge as well as Brapp. Brapp's dropped down the field down to 13th now. He's got a pretty angry pack behind him now, so we'll stick with this for a little bit. So we've got Brapp here in the Techno Autosports car. He's got Peter Thrower, Cracker and McLean Lynette right behind him. And then we've got another pack a little bit further back with Taipan, Cheese and Roy. So Thrower there just a little wide. I'm going to encourage Cracker just a little bit, and he's wide again. Cracker sees the gap. He's going to force... Well, he's going to try and go around the outside of MG.
Yeah.
And he's able to pull it up, and he'll be able to get on the power earlier, the line he took there. And he's got it done, so...
No. And what helped there as well was McLean Lynette getting in the back of Peter Thrower because Pete had to back off trying to go too wide through that second last corner. So yeah, good move from Cracker and he was really comfortable and committed to that pass as well. He was confident in get on the brakes down into MG and get around the outside of MG to then set the move up on the inside of second last corner.
Yeah, so we'll just run through the back of this. So obviously Taipan 17th, Cheese 18th, Pierre Roy 19th, Lockie Lock is in a battle with Freakish at the moment. Of course, Freakish, one of the drivers that was off at turn 1. Got Josh Watson on JB. He's in 22nd place now, so I think Gary Neville's run off the road somewhere. No, he's in the pits, so Neville in the pits there, which is interesting to see. And he's last.
He's possibly going for the soft. He obviously had the pace in qualifying. I'm guessing he was obviously one of the guys that he struggled off the start and found himself escorted wide at turn 1. So that probably hasn't helped his strategy call, but if he's on softs and the guys in front of him on hards, hopefully he can maybe claw something back at the back end of this race.
Yeah, so will be something to look out for, particularly the last 2 or 3 laps. If your hard tyres are struggling, there will, well, that soft tyre will be much, much better as you cut back to the battle for 5th place now. So Warwick has got ahead of Liccardo, and Liccardo, he's got Brunswick all over the back of him. So very, very angry battle pack headed by Darren Kemp. And I think he's got a bit of a fight on his hands because Steve Warwick, Rody, he's been on a bit of a charge these last couple of laps.
He has, yeah. So Steve Warwick, he started back with Cam Rutledge, and he's been making his way up through the pack. Kempy though, he's not one to shy away from a fight, and we know Kempy, he will not be making himself quiet right now.
2 by 2.
Warwick,
2 by 2.
He's committed.
And Hans as well, looking to get a move done into turn 1. He gets it done. Liccardo not wanting to give it up. A little bit of contact there at turn 2. I don't think Hans will like that too much. And Kemp wide on the exit there, sort of compromised Brunswick. And a little bit of argy-bargy there as Brunswick tried to get out of the way. But, well, there's a bit of a disaster there for Kemp there. It's 2 spots and almost 3 spots in 2 corners.
What really set that up for him was trying to maybe pull a bit of an over-under on Steve Warwick through turn 2 at Southern Loop. He just got in the back of Steve, which obviously unsettled Steve's rear, and Kempy had to back off to make sure that he didn't take advantage from it, or he didn't end up running in the back of maybe a spinning Steve Warwick, which is what set up the run that Dane and Hans both had over him. He obviously then moved to the outside, which is where Hans was, and there was 2 or 3 times there in that sequence where I would have sworn a car was going to end up backwards.
Big lock stoppers, or lock swappers there for Dane Liccardo there. Didn't quite see how he managed it. I think it was just losing it just a little bit over the rise and then was on the brakes when he was still a little bit sideways there, but Brunswick now looking to get a move done at turn 1. Kemp. It's a little bit of internet lag there.
Cool.
So Kemp's actually got a bit of an advantage here because he's still in the slipstream with Ricardo while Brunswick is just out of it. So that's why the Nissan was just edging away from Brunswick, who did get the better run out of the final corner there. But these guys still haven't really broken up as much as I would have thought. Warwick hasn't really gotten away, and Ricardo, well, he'd already been overtaken by Warwick, so it'll be interesting to see what happens after Brunswick tries to get this move done here. And it's going to try the outside. They've got Grossel right behind him as well. Brunswick around the outside of Honda. You don't really see that too often. Now he's going to try and cut in front of the Penrite car, and he's been spun around there. Grossel is going to redress, so perhaps a bit of contact there. Grossel's going to lose out a spot to Stancliff and almost his teammate there, but Brunswick now, he's got a bit of work to do to catch up to the back of Darren Kemp, as I forget how to speak. But Ricardo now putting Warwick under pressure. We've sort of, well, haven't looked at the battle for the lead, but there has been a change for the lead, Rody, with Coxie back in the lead, Berkey in second, Termo still keeping a watchful eye.
Yeah, it's just these are running softs. They haven't pitted yet, so it suggests they are, all three of them, trying the one-stop soft strategy, the zero-stop soft strategy. Termo's probably in the best position just because, from what we've seen, and we haven't seen a lot of this, but he hasn't been racing. He's been lapping, but he's not had to be racing, as opposed to Berkey and Cox. And as I said earlier, you don't want to be racing others when you're trying to do tyre conservation, because it just chews through your tyres. So Termo possibly, again, like we mentioned earlier, like the strategy that Hans took in Super Series, and the same strategy we see in racing generally, where you hang back and he's not out of range of these guys, and if their tyres really start to fall off, where he's still got a bit of life left, he could make a swing at this with a lap or two left to go. He's
also close enough as well, where if these guys do have a bit of a blue between each other, he's right there to capitalise. He's not close enough really to put Burke under pressure, but he's there in case these guys, defend too hard, or one of them tries a move that's not quite on. They make contact, they both run wide. Termo's right there to pick up the pieces. And of course the leading Ford driver, these guys good 5.5 seconds ahead of Matt Cecil, who's a good 10 seconds ahead of Ricardo, who's got ahead of Warwick now. So just cut back to that here, and Warwick under pressure from Kemp. Just cut to a replay here just to see how that's happened. So looks like Warwick not quite as confident under brake into Honda. Ricardo deep under brakes. Warwick giving him the space, a little bit of a lock-up as he was on the marbles on the outside there, and Kemp almost following him through as well there. So perhaps Warwick's tyres just starting to fall away here. Well, Ricardo just gradually moving his way forward. Would have been disappointed with his qualifying effort, but he's done a good job here in the race.
Yeah, and if he is, the sort of pace he's pulling, I'd suggest that this battle is possibly the lead of the guys running the hard strategy, just based on how much, at least the lead three, and Matt Cecil has pulled out over them. Obviously, these guys have been battling up through to get to these positions as well, but yeah, if Dane is committed to the hard strategy, then yeah, and what we're seeing is the return of serve for committing to those hards. Is yes, it hurts you in qualifying, but so far he's in the top 5, and there's quite the guys on softs probably have a big enough gap, even if something goes really wrong for them, unless it goes wrong for them in the next half a lap. Yeah, he's still comfortably sitting for a top 5, which obviously will help his championship tilt.
Oh, and had Ricardo make a slight mistake at Siberia Honda region here, and he's actually lost a bit of that gap that he had to Warwick, and Brunswick now right onto the back of Kemp. So a couple laps to go now. We'll soon find out who's on what tyre. If the bit of contact between Warwick and Ricardo there, that meant Kemp had to back up, and Brunswick, who's on a different line there, is able to capitalise, but they're going to go side by side through turn 11 and 12. Not ideal, but Brunswick gets the job done. A lot of curb usage at the final corner there. He's got the slipstream, he's got the run. and is going to have the inside, but Warwick is going to have the slipstream, which looks like it's working for him here. But who will break later? It will be Brunswick. Gets the job done into turn 1. That's a big loss there for Liccardo as well. He had way too much lock on, so massive understeer for Liccardo. Perhaps his tyres just starting to fall away here. As Brunswick, much better exit out of turn 2. Got Warwick off the road as well in the background. Big shame from him after a good run. But what can Brunswick do here? Goes for the inside. Liccardo covers. Brunswick back to the outside. He's going to try and yeah, there it is. Big dive up the inside for Kempy there. So on for young and old here with, well, a lap and a half to go. Warwick still in 8th place there. Just cut to the lead for a moment, and now it's Turmo looking to strike. He was quite close to Burke there. Burke's around, no, saved it just, but Turmo will move up into 2nd, at least for the moment. They're going to go side by side here through the final corner. Not the ideal line for Turmo. Big slide again for Burke, so these guys' tyres no good at the moment. And Turmo now into 2nd. Cox has got a comfortable lead. He's just got to really not make a mistake, and the win will be his. But a 35.9, that is not ideal. And 35 and 36 for the other two in the top 3. Cecil a 37.9, so the tyres have dropped away from these guys. Something tells me, right, they're on the soft tyre here, as, well, it might go 3 wide into turn 1 with Liccardo, Kemp, and Brunswick. And up the inside goes Kemp. He's going to get the job done. Very aggressive. Liccardo having to leave the space. And now Brunswick going to try and go around the outside at turn 2. Not really going to do it there, so he's got to set it up for Honda.
Yeah, he needs to get a good run off this corner, and I think he's been managing his tyres well enough. Obviously, if he is on the hubs as well, to be able to do that.
And we've got to change for the lead. We've got to change for the lead. Sorry to cut you off there, but Turmo now in the lead, so he's been looking after his tyres, as you mentioned earlier. And I do want to cut to a replay to see what had happened there, but Turmo now in the lead. He will have to make a speech if he does win this race. He won't be able to get out of it here, but there's still a couple corners to go. He's just parked his car in the middle of the road at Lukey Heights. Cox up the inside at MG. It is bumpy on the inside, but they're going to go side by side again here. A little bit of door banging between the two, and it's going to be a run to the line with 1 corner to go. So Turmo's got the nose in early. Don't understeer here. Don't understeer here. He has a little bit. Cox hasn't got the run. He didn't get on the power soon enough. So Turmo will hold on. Well, not hold on. He'll steal victory here. The only lap he led was only for half a lap, and it was the final one. So Turmo takes race 1. Cox is 2nd. Burke in 3rd. And looks like Darren Kemp will come home in 4th place. Just outside the podium.
I think we've completely lost Matt Cecil as well.
He's gone. He's lost a tyre. Now, this is a problem in the summer series, and he's done it again here. So Kemp will come home 4th. Liccardo will just sneak home in 5th. And Hans Brunswick home in 6th place. Warwick in 7th. Cecil losing 8th place at the line. We did see him off in the background there. Braxton Stancliff home in 8th, but we did see him caught up in a few instances on the first lap, so he may come under the steward's wrath a little bit later. But yeah, there's a replay of Cecil going off at turn 1, and to me, Rudy, that looks like a front right tyre failure. He couldn't get his tyres to last another half a lap, so just overdriving it slightly, but still, at least he picks up a top 10, so it could have been worse for him, especially considering how Summer Series went for him. So
he'll be getting Vietnam flashbacks to Summer Series with a tyre deg, and yeah, top 10 is still good for him in the results, but he was on for a 4th place there, and he's lost it all in that last half a lap. So Matt, typically the mute, but he has found a microphone in recent months, and I guarantee he'd probably thrown a bit of a spray in the direction of anyone that's listening.
Yeah, so he'll be annoyed, but still picks up a solid result in the end. Brap coming home in 10th place, moving up 5 spots. Cracker moving up 8 spots in the end there to finish in 11th. Rutledge home in 12th. He was in the top 10 as well there, Rody, so I wonder if he's made a late mistake or he's pitted there. So home in 12th place. Thrower home in 13th. Cheese in 14th, and Taipan in 15th. Roy home in 16th. Lockie Lock in 17th. Freakish 18th. Lennart Grosel, after running in the top 10 early on, finishing in 19th. So I do wonder as well if he's had a tyre failure there. Josh Watson in his first race in the group, home in 20th place. He'll certainly take that. Something to build on, and he's finished it as well. So that's important there. And on the lead lap, Gary Neville home in his return to Amos Oz / ASR home in 21st. He did make a pit stop. Linnett, bit disappointing his race, but certainly got the pace to bring home a solid result. He finishes 22nd. Hickinson home in 23rd. And again, I think that's also down to maybe a pit stop or tyre dramas late in the race. And Glenn Miles home, a lap down in 24th, the last of the runners. Alrighty, battles up and down the field, and something you always want to have is a battle for the win and change of lead on the final lap of the race.
Yeah, and it's all I wanted coming into this race. I wanted people to have a dip at the tyre strategy. I didn't want to vote. I didn't want to cheer on anyone not finishing the race or suffering what Matt suffered. But I want to see someone push it hard enough and push it too hard and get a tyre failure just to see what it did in the end. And yeah, and then unfortunate for Matt that he was the one to be the one that pushes too hard, and I'll probably get blamed for that somewhere along the line. But I'm happy that a couple of guys did roll on the softs, and we saw some really good racing there because they had to balance out the instinctive urge of a racing driver to race the cars around them, while also thinking about themselves in the big picture of I need these tyres to last. And in the end, yeah, we saw that Termo was the one who was best prepared at that. Coxie managed to keep out in the lead for a good part of that race while managing his tyres, and he was only a car length off being the better one of the two. And Berkey, being a younger driver, he has a bit more impulsive, a bit more aggressive driving style, and we saw a bit of wiggles from him early in the race. Obviously, that came back to bite him at the end of the race where his tyres were really gone. But yeah, it was interesting just looking at the comparison as well. Is the biggest clue in for me as well was not even looking at the lap times, the gaps. At the end of lap 10, those three had a 10-second gap on Matt Cecil, obviously also running the softs. By the end of lap 11, that was down to 7 seconds. So Matt obviously had a rubbish lap too, but that's about where the drop-off is coming in, it would seem, is that 11th to 12th lap. So I don't know if some of the guys on the hards can maybe, and I don't know what this does for thinking as well, because the top three, and what was the top four up until the last half a lap, we're all on the softs. So does that mean we see more people trying the soft strategy, or what do you reckon we're going to see out of that for the second race?
Well, it's going to be interesting. So I've actually just gone into live races. So there is live timing available for those that do want to have a look and see. It can be spotty at times. Unfortunately, tonight it's one of those nights where it isn't quite working as well as what we'd like. But if you do check the description or go to asrleague.liveraces.com, click on the live server, and it will show the lap times of what's going on. But yeah, just having a look at that at the moment. So I've just gone to our race winner Termo, for example. So I'll run through all of his laps. So lap 1, of course, started the race, so you can discount that. But from there, 33.5, 33.6, 33.9. So tyres are still good after 4 laps. 34.1, okay, first lap out of the 33s, and he's back into the 33s again with the 33.7 on lap 6. But after that, his tyres clearly at that halfway mark, not 100%, because then it's a 34.4, 34.4, 34.6, and then we've got the 35.1, the 35.7, and the 35.3. Of course, he was battling with some of those, but you do see that little bit of drop-off towards the back end of the race. So, looks like the soft tyres the way to go if you can make it last. But if you can drive on the hard tyres though, Rody, and let's say do low 34s or even sneak a 33 somehow, if you could manage just low 34s all race, you will have some advantage at the end of the race, when we did see a number of drivers out there with no tyres, obviously with tyres failing, but of course they're also running a second and a half to 2 seconds off their normal pace. So it's still line ball, but I think, yeah, we may see more drivers just running on the softs and trying to make it last here in race number 2.
Yeah, I was digging through those times actually, and some of the guys right at the back, obviously, we saw Gary Neville pit early in that race, Higginson, Miles, and Linnett all pitted. But for drivers like we saw, obviously Leonard Grossel drop through the field. He actually had a lap, and it would have been just through the racing he was getting involved in. He ended up with a 2:25 for a lap time. So he's had a big off somewhere, which is what saw him drop through the field. He went from 10th to 21st across that lap.
I think he's ended up in San Remo there.
Yeah, he's headed off to see the Penguins.
Yeah, he's certainly not on the Grand Prix circuit, but also been sent the updated point standings. So I'll just run through the top 10 in the point standings. We're still in the warm-up session here for race number 2, but just to run through an updated point standings. Of course, this is before any penalties and stuff may get handed out after the event. So Braxton Stancliff still leads the championship, but he's only 12 points ahead of Dane Liccardo now, who's on 352. It's a three-driver tie for second place, with Liccardo, Darren Kemp, who had a good run, and Daniel Cox, all equal on 352 points. So the top 4 in the championship, very, very close together. And then there's actually a big gap to probably a little bit of surprise considering his run in race 1 here tonight. Actually got Peter Thrower there in 5th place with Lennart Grossel, who fell through the field in 6th on 304. Typeban again hasn't had the best night so far. He's still in the top 10 in the standings on 301. Same with Freakish on 295. Termo, a big gainer with that win in race number 1. He's equal on 295 with Freakish for 8th. And then we have Cheese rounding out the top 10. So on 277. So we've already got some gaps there, but I've also got a number of drivers here, Rody, that give it a bit of time and we should see them move up the standings. So drivers like Matt Cecil, they can continue the pace that he had at least. We should expect him to move up the standings, and definitely Lachlan Burke, who did DNF race number 1 at Simmons, and I don't think he picked up too many points in race 2 in that one either, with 7th. So he's got a ways to go. He's on 273 and 11th, but the way he's going, we should see him move up the field as well.
Yeah, so and the good thing about the top 10 is we're seeing a good mix of drivers that have had the outright pace take a win, and just those that have managed to stay there and thereabouts, because I think a good half of that top 10 is still of drivers that haven't won a race, but they've just been there. Obviously, like Leonard being a good example. Actually, Cox he has picked up his 1 win last time out. But yeah, there is still some drivers in that pokey end that are still managing to be there or thereabouts, which is good to see.
Yeah, so very interesting start to the championship season so far. So just cut to some live pictures here as we wait for the server to tick over. So Lachlan Burke, the only man to set a time so far. Just try and find another driver actually. So we did see. We'll have a look at actually Matt Cecil and his lap times from race number 1 here. So of course not quite as fast as Termo, but you will see a lot more deg in the final couple laps. So we did see, excluding lap number 1, of course, with the race start. So he had a 34.0, 33.8, 34.0, 34.3, 34.9. So about to see that drop off again. So lap 6, looking like it's the point where the tyres hit a bit of a cliff, or start to fall off a little bit of a cliff, and the lap time starts to fall away. And yeah, from lap 7, it was a 34.9, 35.1, 35.3, 35.6, and then the last 2 laps are 1 minute 37.9. So his tyres certainly fairly second-hand then. And then the final lap, where it did see in the live chat there that his tyre failed with 4 corners to go. So that would have been Lukey Heights or MG.
Yeah, that would have been Lukey Heights, and that was That was a right front tyre. You don't want a right front tyre to go over Lukey. I think we've seen it with. I think it might have been Craig Lowndes, who I think the tyre went
on the way into it. Yeah,
and he's just. And there is a nice big gravel trap out there, but you go fast over the gravel trap and it doesn't do anything to slow you down. And there is a nice big thick tyre wall ready to absorb your car and help shed all the panels that you can take off of that car.
Yeah, and another thing people forget as well, if you have a wall of any kind, whether it be lined with tyres or arm coat, or even concrete, if it is backed by earth bank, like most of the outside of Phillip Island, if you hit that, it does more damage than it would if you're just hitting stationary upright concrete wall or Armco fencing. Because it's got that earth behind it, there's less give. And that was a massive, massive crash. Also, one of the reasons why Glenn Seaton wasn't really right after his 2000 testing crash. And obviously, we did see what happened to Murph's car in '97 at the final corner. But here we are. It's ticked over to the race session. And of course, we do have a reverse top 10 roadie. So, going to be an interesting one, this one. And also got Brunswick up there as well. So, he's got less cars to deal with. And again, he should put on a show. But those guys in the top 3 in race 1, they had quite a bit of a pace advantage over the rest of the field. Can they do it again? Or will we see Matt Cecil, who starts from 2nd here in this one, will we see him have a really good crack? Because he also had some solid pace in this one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes, and also there's plenty of guys now buried down the mid pack that might do a re-roll on their strategy. Drivers like Leonard Gross or Nathan Higginson, and it'll be interesting to see how those guys come through the pack as well.
All right, well, give you a break this time, and I'll roll through the grid here for race number 2. So reverse top 10, and the rest is finishing order from race number 1. Brap finished 10th. He'll start first for race number 2, and he'll have Matt Cecil not on the same row because it's a staggered grid here. He'll start from 2nd place. Braxton Stancliff has missed the start, so he's going to start from the pit lane here. Or perhaps he's maybe preemptively serving a penalty, I don't know. Steve Warwick will start in 4th place. And then we have Hans Brunswick, of course, in P5. Liccardo in P6. Good, solid opening race from him. Nice and clean. Darren Kemp in 7th. He had a big dip later on in race number 1 as well, put on a good show. And then we have the big hitters from race number 1. Lachlan Burke will start 8th. Daniel Cox will start in 9th place, with Termo rounding out the top 10. Cracker, who had a cracker of a race to move up as many spots as what he did in race 1, he'll start in 11th spot, just outside the 10. Cam Rutledge in 12th, followed by Peter Thrower, Cheese, Taipan, and Pierre Roy. Of course, I think it was Cheese and Freakish that were caught up in the first corner incident in race number 1. But in 17th, we've got Lucky Lock, followed by Freakish in 18th. Lennart Gressel will be looking for a little bit of retention in race number 2. So we know he's got some decent speed in that thing, but strategy seemed to catch him out in race number 1. He'll start 19th. Josh Watson, he'll start from 20th place, hashtag not last. And a lot of fans in the live chat cheering him on, so hopefully he can get himself up there in the top 15 in this one. Gary Neville, he'll start 21st. I think he'll be one of those guys that will think about changing his strategy and not pitting here in race number 2. And then we have McLean Lynette. Look for him to move a little bit further forward in this one after qualified fairly well in the top 10 for race number 1. He'll start 22nd here with Nathan Higginson in 23rd. He'll be looking for a bit of redemption as well in race number 2. And Glenn Miles for Milwaukee Racing rounding out the field. He'll start in 24th place, with, of course, Braxton Stancliff starting from the pits to the right of screen there. Alright, roadie, the drivers are forming up on the grid. I'm going to run to the fridge, so you're going to have to call out this race start.
Alrighty, just got the back of the grid lining up now. We see a very tight grid. I think one of the tightest grids on the calendar, but all cars are now in position. We've got Braxton Stancliff waiting at the pit exit, and lights are on. And we're away, and brilliant start there for Harms. He had a gap to work with Braxton not being there, and he's taken the whole shot, and he's up into first off the start. Obviously, in the background, a little bit of clutter there. Oh, Termo and Liccardo and Kemp both all getting into each other through turn 1, but it's a lot cleaner, it seems, for the entire field from what we saw in the first race. Although not for turn 2.
That's back, and that's Liccardo and Cecil off there at turn number 2, and we've got Warwick sideways on the exit as well at Southern Loop, so don't know what's going on there. We've got Burke, Cheese and Kemp all battling for sheep stations already. 3 wide, turn 3. I think that's Stoner, I think. And we've got Licata off on the grass in the background as well. So it's all kicked off here at the start. Cheese is up a magnificent 7 spots off the start line, so great start from him. Rutledge up 4 into 8th, and Pierre Roy has got himself in the top 10 as well.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys back there that had a blinding start. Obviously, I did mention Hans because he had the gap in the grid with Braxton not being there, but a couple of the guys were lucky, and it seems they all got a nice clean getaway at the back, so there was no need to trip over each other, and yeah, they managed to get ahead of the guys that were starting to squabble over positions further up.
It's a hectic start already. As drivers jostle for position. We've got Cecil and Licata now going to try and force their way back up the field. Same as Steve Warwick as well. Not sure if there was contact or if he just lost the rear end going through Southern Loop, but he finds himself down in 16th now. As right on board Matt Cecil has got a group of cars in front of him that's trying to go side by side to the final corner, which isn't really advised. Thrower's got a magnificent run here. He's going to nab 3 of them, I reckon, by the time he gets to turn 1. He'll nab 2. He might try the inside for 3 here. Will he do it? He's up alongside. Oh, they're going to go side by side through 1, but if he does, that's magnificent recovery, because he was actually down a couple of spots, or down a spot. Now he finds himself back up 2 spots from where he started. So nice move, a nice run from Peter Thrower as Higginson all out of shape through the exit of Southern Loop. He's up 10 spots. He's having a big go and finds himself in 13th, but he has to lift there at turn 3, and it sort of balked the cars behind him as Licata has a look on Warwick behind. We've got Cracker a little bit off as well.
Ooh.
And looks like Gary Neville off in the background. And Yellow's out there as well. A little bit of contact between Warwick and Licata there through Siberia, as now Cracker and Cecil side by side through the flip-flop and through Hayshed. Licata looking to make a move there. It's very, very risky. And again,
I get the impression he wasn't happy with what happened with him and Warwick earlier, because there was some flashing of the light. Warwick and Dane both in the mat there, and Cracker as well.
There's a big mess. So
Dane's been lucky, and he's got gee, come on guys, calm down. They're only lap 2. McLean let it off the inside as well. I think he was alongside Taipan or maybe Leonard there. He was lucky. He managed to spin just past the concrete wall there, so luckily he didn't hit the wall, but out in the boonies, and he's going to spin the car back around and get back on the track.
Yeah, so a bit of a mess there. With poor Cecil, just an innocent bystander, rear-ended by Warwick. I don't think it was deliberate or anything, or malicious. It was just one of those things. And Cecil's been clipped again by Licata on the way in. Turn 2, and Cracker's all over the place and has been given another helping serve off the circuit. And he's half spin there. And now we've got Taipan looking to make a move on Licata here. So massive, massive battle for what is 13th place here. You'd think they're trying to... You'd think this is a last lap battle for the, for the World Championship, but yeah, 13th place on the line for these guys. Their tyres aren't going to like it at all as Licata goes around the outside at Siberia of Matt Cecil. And hopefully that'll settle that down. A little bit further down the track though, you've got Peter Thrower putting Pierre Roy under a bit of pressure. So Thrower, I reckon, Rudy, he's tried the hard tyres in race 1, it didn't work, and he's got the soft tyres on because he looks a lot more comfortable here in race 2.
I'd say so, yeah. The pace, and that was the thing. The 3-car passes on the front straight. Thrower is, I love racing around Thrower because he's very courteous around other drivers. Not maybe to quite the point of Leonard where it puts him in a bit of trouble because he doesn't actually have a dip. But Thrower's a really courteous. He's a really nice guy to race around. So it's not out of this world for Thrower to try and pass 3 cars essentially in one straight into one corner.
Got a car off at the final corner. That's Taipan. So it looks like again we had more shenanigans at MG. But into the final corner, what's he done? He's just he's lost the rear on the way in and then just got on the marbles, and Greg Murphy'd it into the fence. So thankfully the fence isn't as deadly in the sim as what it is in real life. Otherwise that'd be that'd probably be the front right-hand corner that would need a complete replacement. Probably even the whole front end of the car, to be fair. But Freakish and Roy battling as Thrower sets after Cheese and Rutledge. Both those guys well up from where they started. Same with Peter Thrower and Pierre, Roy and Freakish. All those guys up a number of spots already and looking good at the moment. Only 4 laps of 12 in. Haven't seen too much of the front though, so we'll just give a little bit of a rundown. We've got Hans well out in front at the moment, 5.5 seconds clear of Turmo in P2, and then we've got Coxie and Berkey battling it out for the final spot on the podium. And then we've got Brapp and Kempy battling it out for 5th place, with that little battle pack for 7th, with Rutledge, Cheese, Thrower and Freakish, as Pierre Roy's gone off and he's... Well, it's an awkward rejoin, that one, but thankfully it's avoided major... he's eventually got it going. He's eventually got it going without causing an issue, but yeah, that's cost him a lot of spots.
It has, and like the incidents we've seen in the last little while have broken out the battle pack that we had for 13. Obviously now it's 12 with a couple of other guys shuffling around. The closest we have got to a battle there is Leonard trying to make a move on Lachlan Burke down the inside of turn 1, which he looks to have pulled off, and actually Lachlan Burke's pulled out, I think, a little bit as well, just to make sure that was clean.
Yeah,
and
getting the job done. Dane in front, a little bit of a lock up there at Southern Loop. It's allowed cars behind just to gain just a smidge. Right, a bit further ahead though. Cheese has got Rutledge and Thrower right behind him here, so I think Cheese has actually got ahead of Cam at some point there. But Cam not letting him get away here, and Thrower looking to get by both of them.
Yeah, so obviously mentioned Thrower more than likely on the soft strategy. The two in front seem to be doing similar pace though. Obviously Cam and Thrower both run about the mid-pack of the main game, and Cheese is not too far off that as well. So if Thrower is running the soft tyres, I'm inclined to believe, based on pace, that Cam and Cheese are also rolling the tyres on the softs, rolling the dice on the softs.
So very close battle here. In fact, looks like Cheese just edging away from Rutledge and Thrower. Thrower's got a good run out of turn 12 here. He's going to have a tow. So it is Rutledge, but Thrower just had the better run. He's having to look up the inside. Can't give him space, but Thrower backs out of it. Still plenty of time left in this one. You don't need to force a move just yet. You've also got to look after your tyres for another 5.8 laps. And Cam actually getting the better run there out of Southern Loop. A little bit further ahead though, Kemp has got ahead of Brapp now, and he's setting after the battle with Lachlan Burke and Daniel Cox, who are still at it here.
It's interesting actually looking at how Kemp seems to be making up the moves on these guys. Whether Brapp's the leading guy on halves, which is possible, but for Kemp to be making up, like he's doing about equal pace, and he's trying to make up pace. The problem is if he's also running softs, which the pace indicates that's a good possibility, he's pushing harder than he probably needs to do. Like he's pushing 10/10ths, which is going to be putting more tyre wear on than he'll need. So he's going to be comfortable either that he's got something in reserve, or that he can make the deficit up at the other end once he's caught them. Otherwise, he's likely to be in the same position that Matt Cecil was in the first race, where it wasn't quite a podium, but it was a good finish for him right up until a tyre went with 4 corners to go.
Yeah, certainly. And had a change of position, a couple of change of positions actually. Talking there, so Thrower managed to make a move on Rutledge at Honda, and then Cheese made a mistake coming out of Honda, and Peter Thrower sent it up the inside at Siberia and got the job done. And he's actually not too far away from Brapp now, so the 5 race is being just a little bit spotty at the moment. It's actually just come back for that last lap. Not an ideal lap, one would say, but all these guys in the 35s, but Thrower a good half a second, more than half a second faster than the guys that he just overtook. So he's looking the goods at the moment. Brapp on that last lap, high 35 with low 35s for Thrower and Kemp. So Brapp just starting to fall away here, and if he's not careful, he could find himself right on the fringes of the top 10 and losing a few spots here.
Yeah, and like if he's running the softs, then he's likely to suffer the same sort of deg as the guys around him. But if he is on the hards, he might actually be in a good position here. Not necessarily to challenge. The only sort of position further up from here he could go at this point is Kempy. But if he's on the hards, and what we're just seeing is just the pace of the hard tyre, he's possibly well positioned because Pete's had a great race, but doing that on softs means he's likely to be in trouble coming into the end of this race. We're seeing Kempy's pushing hard, most likely on softs, so he's potentially in a bit of trouble. And there is the battle pack of the three just in front as well, which are the 3 leaders just behind Harms, the 3 leaders of the first races. Thrower breezes past Brap on the main straight.
1.5 seconds faster just on that lap.
Yeah, so I'm inclined to believe then, based off of that Pete's still having the. He can't have been on hards based on the way he was cutting through the field early. He has to be on softs, which means that he's managing to get a better good period out of the softs than some of the guys around him. And Brap either is on softs and they're falling off, or is on hards but hasn't quite got the advantage yet.
And I've had Cracker have a big accident in the final corner. Saw an accident, a couple accidents similar to that in some amateur racing at the final corner. They just had no rear and lent on it too much the final corner and into the inside fence and then to the outside fence. So big accident for Cracker. And he's actually got McLean Leonard overtaking him. Also got Glenn Miles has just pitted as well. A little bit further ahead, got Josh Watson not too far away from Gary Neville and his return to ASR. There's a little bit of front end damage on that FGX of Gary Neville as well. So Watson doing a good job here in this one. And Stancliff, who did start from the pits in this one, he's up a couple spots, but he's got a fair way to go to catch the back of Steve Warwick and Nathan Higginson. But it's like Liccardo as well. He's made a couple of mistakes these last few laps because he's actually found himself behind Matt Sesson. He's actually a little bit away from Lachlan Locke as well. Also had Lennart Gersel. Live timing has him in 11th spot at the moment, just ahead of Matt Cecil. 34.6 for him. That's a personal best on that lap for this race. So he's got himself some clear air, and that's actually some really good pace. In race 1, we didn't see speed like that from any of the front runners at the back end of the race. So doing a really good job at the moment. Unfortunately, finds himself down in 11th spot. And got Cheese now making a move on Brat. And gets the job done nice and easy there. Into Honda corner. A little bit sideways on the exit, but still fairly easy. Next big battle though, Rhodey. We do have Kemp starting to lose ground to Thrower, but we also have Turmo now starting to come under a bit of a threat here from Lachlan Burke and Coxie.
Yeah, so I've flashed these guys a couple of times across the race so far, and they've always been in this battle, but in different positions. Obviously, we saw in the first race Turmo hang back for a good portion of the race until he popped out at the end. Whether he felt he had something in reserve with his tyres from that last race, and actually no, sorry, that is Glenn Miles was seeing, I think, just ahead of this battle as well. But whether Turmo's confident now that he had something in reserve from that first race, that he could start pushing a little earlier, just really comfortable with that run that he's got.
Well, these guys are setting 33s at the moment. So these guys, they're going faster than what they were in race 1 here. At this stage of the race. So these guys have some tyres left. Perhaps they're saving too much. And let Hans get away here. Hans is, for the most part, from what I've seen, been in the 33s. And now these guys are finally getting into the 33s. So maybe they're just battling too much early or saving too much early. There's a big slide under brakes for Burke. And that's allowed Cox to put the nose in there at Honda, as we've got Glenn Miles off the road as well, letting them go. Burke having a look at the inside at Siberia, but not quite close enough. And now Cox going to try and set after Turmo, who's just ahead. And from what I've gathered so far, Cox does seem to be a little bit better than these other two, Rhodey, in the final sectors. Turmo backs up very, very early for Lukey Heights there, allowing Cox to close even further.
It does allow him to close further, but it also forces Cox to back down a little bit as well. And if he is really trying to get advantage of that final sector, Turmo possibly just, I mean, he's already ahead, but just parking himself on an apex, really trying to throw some kryptonite in Foxy's direction and really try and take away the advantage in that last corner. But there he is, well wide. He's going to get. He's lucky not to get the grass. He is almost about to use some curb. I think Berkey's going to be the big winner out of this. He got the flip off of Turmo, and he got the run through the corner. He might be in the lead coming out of turn 1.
Not quite in the lead, but in the battle
the lead of this group. Sorry, lead of this group.
Yeah. He is. He's going to take second place after all of that. So poor Coxie does all the hard work, gets balked at the final corner a little bit, and Lucky Burke says, "Thank you very much. I'll take that position back, and I'll also move up to second." But these guys battling quite hard, quite fair, but going by just that last half a lap there that we're riding on board Coxie there, Rody. I don't think Turmo's got any tyres left.
No, I feel like, and again, look at the pace that they're doing. They've I don't know whether they've conserved early and thought they could go hard at the end, which you kind of can, but it seems like it just hasn't come. The numbers haven't come up for them, at least for Turmo. He's not. He's still keeping with them, but he's not as racy as he was the first 6, 7, 8, 9 laps of this race. So whether he's backed off to 9/10, knowing, all right, I've got enough left in me, still want one last push, and is waiting for these guys to, run themselves out of tyres and maybe take something out of there. But I think at this point, Turmo's run his race. It's up to the guys around him now as to where he's going to finish.
Yeah, he's falling away now as the two in front of him battle it out. Did have Cracker just in the way of these two for a little bit. I don't think he balked either of them, but certainly would have made it a little bit uneasy as Burke tries to break the tote down the pit straight. We are on the final lap. It was a 35 for both of these guys, so from 33s to 35s now. Hans down. He's lost actually a second and a half in the last half. He's lost something close. He was in an 8-second lead at one point. He's down to 5.5. I think it will still be enough, unless a tyre is gone. It will still be enough to make it to the end of this race. But we can see the side effect of him pushing and obviously doing those. I believe it was those 34s. And here we go. Coxie making a move at Honda up the inside of Burke. They're both late on the brakes. Burke's broke himself and he's off. He's doing some lawn mowing there. Turmo also wide on the exit, but because he was so far back, Burke's going to hold onto it for now. These guys all running out of tyres, I reckon. Turmo trying to go the long way at Siberia. Not really going to do it there. The gap, though, down to 5.6. Hans is probably just cruising at the moment. But he's going very, very slowly, Rody. Lukey Heights, he's taken that maybe even 50 k's slower than what well, maybe not 50, but certainly 20 to 30 k's slower than what you normally would.
It is. He's definitely at the point where he knows he can't drive. He's got to just get his tyres to the end. Obviously, having seen what happened in Matt Cecil in the first race, but all he's got to do is make it through one last corner. He's got a 4-second margin, and as we mentioned earlier, Hans is someone who can both drive a car and engineer a car to a win, and he's managed to do it so far. He's managed to do it in this race. Great run to Hans. That would be...
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. That was poor time. My game freeze as he crossed the line, so I wasn't sure what was happening. But yes, Hans Brunswick takes the win in race 2.
And we have Coxie getting beaten by one of his own liveried cars there. He'll come home in second. Lockie Burke home in third place in the ahead of Turmo, the first of the Fords, first of the non-Commodores. And then we have Darren Kemp holding on to 5th place in the end there. Cheese not too far away. Peter Thrower must have made a late mistake on that. Yes, he did. On that final lap, 1 minute 40 for Peter Thrower, who was trying to chase down Kemp there. So a bit of a disaster there for him, but he still picks up a solid 7th place and up 6 spots from where he started. Rutledge home in 8th. His teammate right behind him in 9th place in Gersel, up 10 spots. Brapp, well, he's going to start from pole again, 10th in race 1 and 10th in race 2. I think it's reverse, or it might be average. So if it's average, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I should know. I do run the series, but anyway.
I believe it is. I believe it is inverse top down. I think the average is what we use for the mini challenge.
Yeah. And then we have Freakish home in 11th, Cecil home in 12th after the early dramas, and we have Lockie Lock home in 13th. Ricardo finishing off in 14th. So a little bit of inconsistency starting to creep its way in for him. Taipan home in 15th, Higginson home in 16th, with his teammate Roy home in 17th, starting to mirror the real-life GRM in 2018 towards the back end there. Watson home in 18th, so he's creeping towards that top 15 there, so good effort from him. In 18th, he finishes ahead of Braxton Stancliff, who started from the pits. Gary, Neville, McLean, Lynette, and had Steve Warwick retire on the last lap there, with Glenn Miles and Cracker both a lap down. Alrighty, again, outside of Hans just driving away from the start after a good start, it was pretty interesting race once again between Cox, Burke and Turmo, who just can't be separated. Darren Kemp again doing a really good job in the top 5 there. Doesn't quite have the pace of the cars in front, but he's also a step above a lot of the guys behind him, with probably only Matt Cecil and Dane Liccardo of the cars behind him, and Peter Thrower as well, might I add, being the only ones that really in that sort of second, third group there, you know, that has a bit of pace. So hopefully we see those guys in race 2 grouped together, and we have, you know, 2, 3, 4 big battle packs vying for, you know, the spots on the podium as well as the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, and based on the way some of these guys have charged through as well, yeah, I'm interested how this turns out, because obviously Leonard, we saw, got unlucky in that first race, finished 19th. He ended up finishing 9th, so that's going to put him second for this third race off the front row of the grid. So if he's good at his starts, he's got a chance to, you know, sign sort of a good, healthy early margin. Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to get to the point, and this is how this format works as well. It's very good like this, because you start to even out across the night, and obviously it's one of the things where if we did more races across the night that also had reverse top 10, we'd start to see, at least in that sort of top 10, 15, we'd start to see everyone starting to run, starting to both have a good race, but also end up around cars of similar race pace to them, because you have guys that can say absolute heaters in qualifying, but then cannot, for whatever reason, sort out a quali lap, and vice versa. Guys that can't qualify, but under the heat of a race, just manage to excel. And now that we're into the third race, we're starting to get those battle packs you mentioned. They're starting to form. We're starting to get drivers that are similar pace, not only on a lap pace, but across a race pace. They're actually now ending up in the same vicinity as others. So some of the guys that may be going a bit harder with a soft strategy versus the guys that are being a bit gentler with the hards, but obviously now able to attack it right to the end. We're starting to see where all that sort of falls out now.
Well, I actually think everyone's actually gone to the sauce. It certainly looked that way in race 2. You did see a couple of those guys, especially those guys right behind Brunswick there, towards the back end of the race. They did fall away again on that last lap there, but yeah, I reckon everyone's on, at least the top 10. I think everyone is on that softer tyre, and it will be interesting to see if there is anyone that has gone the hard tyre after race 1.
I think the only driver was maybe questioning on that was Brapp, but the pace he was having was probably too fast for what we think would become possible with hards. So he had softs. He was just pushing the more conservative line rather than the likes of Cox and Turmo and Burke in front of him, who obviously went hard early and kept going hard on those softs and really pushed the limit on what they could do with them.
And I also think as well, I think from Summer Series, I do remember, I don't know if it was him or one of the other guys that had come over from ASC, one of the newer guys, that said that the hard tyres are garbage, I'm never going to run them. I can't remember if that was Brapp or if it was someone else, but I think it was him. So again, I think he's one of those guys that if there's a tyre available, he'll, especially the supercar hard tyre, the default stock one, that's not the funnest tyre to drive on if you're used to driving on the soft. So I would imagine that he's gone soft again, but at least you can say he's very consistent. You'd just be hoping that a few of the other guys in front of him just have a couple of run-ins, but he's actually run 2 really clean races. Hasn't had the outright pace, but certainly done a really solid job. So there's a couple of other guys there, especially in race 2 with Cecil being caught up in lap 1 dramas, and Liccardo as well, also getting caught up in a few dramas in race 2 there that, you know, you'd say they have the pace on him, but because Brapp didn't make any mistakes, he finds himself well ahead of him. Same with a couple of other guys as well. So just goes to show that consistency not only gets you the average, decent result, it can also lead to some of these guys moving up quite a fair ways up in the championship. And in Dane's case, I'd imagine it would probably see him drop out of the lead in the Drivers' Championship. In fact, cutting to it, we do have a new championship leader. We've actually got a new second place getter as well, which is a bit surprising. He hasn't had a podium all season, but got Daniel Cox leading the championship now, with Darren Kemp with no podium in second on 4:49, and they've actually got a sizable gap over Dane Liccardo and Braxton Stancliff now. So championship implications there in race number 2, with 14th place for Liccardo and 19th place for Stancliff. So missing the start and some bingles, it's cost Liccardo and Stancliff there, Rody.
Yeah, and this is shaking out in a way that we talked about this earlier about where we sort of saw it shaking out and how it being different. But it's, Kempy having not got a podium so far, and whether that sort of trend will continue as we go deeper into the season, as more points are on offer, whether it's still viable for somebody to just be there or thereabouts consistently without even pulling a win and still be a good challenge for the title. But yeah, for Coxie to be leading with just his one win, and then Kempy to be second with no wins. It's really shaking things up because, we've got Dane there with 2 wins, but he hasn't had the best consistency. We've had Braxton there with decent pace, but he hasn't always been up there as well. So I think, it's meant to be, amongst other things, the Super 2 Series is meant to be an opportunity for the guys to learn racing and learn some of the strategy aspect. And I think it's maybe going to teach some of these guys to think big picture and to think long term for the season, rather than explicitly focusing on trying to have a really good run at a couple of races, just trying to be there or thereabouts for the entire season, at least based on how these points are folding out at the moment.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting, and it will be interesting to see how these guys handle it as well. So I'll run through the top 10 and the points, because we still have 2 minutes left in the warm-up session. So, of course, Daniel Cox, the new leader of the championship, on 449 points. Darren Kemp, 9 points away in second on 440. And then we have a little bit of a gap now. So Liccardo, who was leading the championship, is now in third. He's on 413 points. So, good 27 points away, and then 3 points ahead of Braxton Stancliff on 310. We still have Peter Thrower. That run there actually helped him move up a little bit there. So he's in 5th place now on 389, just 3 points ahead of Termo, who's tracking upwards in the championship. So he's another little bit of a dark horse at the moment, Rody. So one to look out for. Hasn't got the outright speed, but we do know he's fairly consistent. And then, of course, we do have Gersel 6 points away. Again, he's not lit the world on fire, but he's only had the one terrible result, and that was race 1 here at Phillip Island, but he recovered nicely there. So he's in 7th place. Lachlan Burke, who did DNF race 1 from Symmons Plains, that's why he's in 8th place on 367. So expect him to move forward. Freakish on 365, he sits 9th, and then Cheese is rounding out the top 10 on 362, not too far away. So again, these guys are very close together, with Taipan on 359 in 11th, Brap on 341. Then we have Matt Cecil 338. He's a bit up and down at the moment, and he'll be kicking himself with that tyre failure in race number 1. And then we have Nathan Higginson in 14th on 284, followed by Justin Cecil, who's not here this evening. Steve Warwick on 219, he's in 16th. Hans, who of course didn't race in round number 1 at Symmons, he's already on 185 with 6th and a win, ahead of McLean Lynette on 181, Brian Walsh on 162. Then we have Cam Rutledge 146, Lachlan Locke, Pierre Roy, Michael McDonald, which is Cracker, and then Josh Watson, hashtag not last, in 24th. Gary Neville, Glenn Miles, and Rody with 1 DNF, and Mike Coulston with 1 DNF, equal 27th or 26th. Sorry, no, 27th. Yes.
27th. Yeah. Good to still be in the top 30.
Yep, still there, mate. We did have a number of drivers last season, so I think we almost had 50 drivers all up, or 40 drivers for Super 2 last season, or in Super 2 Summer Series. So
Yeah, sounds about right. We ended up with there was, and we're gonna, I think we're gonna see this again this season as well. There is a lot of drivers who'll be in here for the long haul. Mars, now that he's back, I suppose, is a good example. I think Lennott's pretty committed to the supercars as well. Obviously, Braxton Stancliff, some of the guys that are definitely vying to be in the contention to move up to supercars next season. But then we're going to have some of the guys at the back end, especially some of the guys we've just seen join. Hopefully, they'll be able to commit to their car for the full season. But yeah, there's only some cars that, much like Nick Percat's liveries of recent years, have seen a colour, in this case, a new driver nearly every round.
All right, so I forgot to bring this up earlier. This is the track map of Phillip Island. We're going to do it for the last race here, just before we get going here for race number 3. But of course, the statistics down. Actually, no, I did have another screen that was the driver's settings that had all the stats. My mistake. But of course, Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, 4.445 kilometers, 12 turns, and this is the third of 3 races, 12 laps, of course, 12 for 12. Qualifying record of a 32.1 by Tim Redmond, and that was in the main Super 2 series from last year, not the Summer Series, with the lap record by Lime Mitch set in the Summer Series, which is a fair effort with 4 times tyres. And the 1 minute 32.5. Drivers haven't been getting anywhere near that in the races for this one, as they have been looking after them here in this one. Anyway, Rody, we're about to get underway. The formation lap is up and running. If I can just get the graphics set correctly, there we go. Run us through the grid for the final race of the evening.
Alrighty, so the grid is, as we saw at the end of race 2, with a reverse of the top 10, which sees Brapp on pole position again on account of his second 10th place finish. Leonard Grossel sitting in second off the front row for this start, with his teammate Cam Rutledge behind him in third. Pete Thrower sitting in fourth. Obviously, he had good pace in the early stages of the second race. So if he's running that strategy again, maybe we can see him up towards the real pointy end of the field, at least in the early stages of this race. Cheese is in fifth, and a good race from Cheese to get into sixth in the last race. Kempy in sixth, obviously finished fifth in the last race, and I expect these guys will be having a good battle. Then back is this battle pack that we've seen around the pointy end, fighting for voting positions in the last 2 races, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them up there again. Of Chemo for Botolo, Lachlan Burke in the Walkinshaw car, and Daniel Cox in the Timken car, followed by Hans in the 10, and unless he's going to make things a bit exciting, I expect to probably see him disappear away at the front again. Freakish in 11th, with Matt Cecil in 12th. Lockie Lock in 13th, Dane Licaro in 14th, and probably expect to see him a little higher in this third race. Taipan in 15th, with Nathan Higginson in 16th. He's had decent pace, but he just hasn't been able to convert that to a race so far, and hopefully he can calm the nerves a little bit and start to get some good race pace going.
He's got a real big go on the formation.
Big grip. Roy in the sister GRM car in 17th. Josh Watson, hashtag not last, sitting in 18th for this race start. Braxton Stancliff down in 19th, not where he wants to be, and he'll be pushing it back up through the field. Gary Neville in 20th. He's had pace in qualifying and won that pace. He just hasn't quite been able to string a race together, but this is the first time we've seen him back in a while, so I'm not too surprised that he's maybe just a little bit foggy. 21st is McLean Lynette. 22nd is Steve Warwick, obviously DNF right at the end of that race. And Steve's probably pushing back through the field as well. Glenn Miles in 23rd, with Cracker in 24th, and we're at, that's our 24-car grid.
That is it, and you see a number of drivers there angled to the middle of the track to try and, well, avoid the car in front. It's a very compact grid. You've got someone that's just out of position, that's why we're still holding here. And it was the 4th place car of Peter Thrower, and perhaps another car there. Anyway, lights are on for race number 3 from Phillip Island. No jump starts, but the Red Bull car going nowhere, and that's caused absolute mayhem in the midfield there. There's a car around, and a number of cars around. I think Hans was involved in that, and I don't know if that's lag or if that's severe steering damage there. I think it's just a bit of lag, but disaster for him, but he'll put on a show. Looks like everyone getting through turn 1 fairly cleanly, and now it's just through Southern Loop. they go with Brap in the lead, but Termo looking to make the move already.
Yeah, they were threatening to be 3 wide through turn 1. Leonard got the best start of the front row, but Cam got even better from the second row, and there were 3 wide. Cam backing out, probably playing the long game. Leonard as well, just a bit cautious around some of the drivers he's not raced before. Brap having a big go, and Termo coming from, I think it was 7th, his starting position. He's already up to the front. I think maybe he's trying the Hahn strategy of just trying to build a gap and hope it sticks.
Yeah, so Termo into the lead, and his main competitors from the other races are a fair way back. So Cox is in 4th, but he's a few seconds away, and we've got Kempy just a little bit of lag there. He's actually got Higo's actually jumped up 10 spots. And he's got Liccardo behind him as well, so both those guys are fast starters, so that they avoided the carnage off the start there. As they've got Cheese looking to make a move on Rutledge, the 2 Red Bulls looking to make a move as well. And we've also got Lachlan Burke and Cecil battling it out as well. So battles everywhere, and there's a car off in the back there. I think that was Miles, and indeed it is, with Hans down in 16th at the moment. We're actually right on board him for a lap as the 2 cars in front of Roy and Lynette run wide at the final corner. And there's 2 spots for Hans. So stick with him for a lap and see if he has any steering issues and see how he picks his way through the field here at Phillip Island.
So he's looking pretty good, pretty online. That's about the most amount of curb you want to be taking through turn 1 there. Turn 2, he's obviously now ranging up on the back of the 2 Red Bulls of Peter Thrower and Braxton Stancliff, and up in front of them there's also now a battle pack. There's Matt Cecil in there, and I can see I think one of the Ford in there just ahead of Matt as well. Sorry, it is Cam Rutledge actually up in there. He's already fallen back to the top 10.
So having a look already.
A decent start.
There's 3 wide in front as well. He's going to get one of the Red Bulls here, Thrower. He's got Thrower, but Thrower's still on his inside. Still side by side here.
And he has got the run with the wider line, the outside bound, to take a much smoother line through the corner. So he's now got past Thrower. He's moving up on Braxton, who I think is probably backing out just to give himself some clear margin from Cam Rutledge. But Hans has no qualms about getting right up close to the car in front.
Braxton's wide here. He's forced Braxton to commit to the inside. Hans probably going to try and set it up for the final couple of corners. Thrower having a bit of a look. Got yellows out here in the final sector as well. Looks like a car maybe off, and Braxton a bit sideways at turn 11. Hans is going to go around the outside here.
And he's just about pulled that off.
And he's got it done. The 2 Red Bulls now are going to battle. And Hans has got the good run. And he's after Cam.
And I imagine he's probably going to pop out and... Oh, yeah. Bit of a late move there. Cam wants to get on the brakes a bit sooner than Hans expected. But he's just sent it down the inside and he's past Cam. Now he's focused up on the back of Matt Cecil, who's got Cheese, Lachlan Burke and Nathan Higginson all battling for... I think
sheep stations. No, they're battling for sheep stations here.
Stations as well.
This midfield in all the races, they've been battling very, very hard as Higginson moves to the middle of the road. Cheese makes a late lunge and gets the job done. Higginson's going to try the up and under. Does he have the run? He does have the run, so good driving from Higginson, frustrating for Cheese. And now Cecil, big dive up the inside, taking... No, that's a line I've patented into there a few times. Just take the early line, inside line, and he's got the job done. And that's compromised Cheese now, who... He's got Hans right behind him, having a red-hot go. In fact, a little bit of contact into Lukey Heights, but they'll both live to fight another day. But they all compact up behind Higginson once again. Cheese having a look at Cecil, also to defend, and he's going to get the job done, is he? Or is Cecil going to hold on around the outside? Cecil, he's got it. So Cecil holds on around the outside. That's compromised Cheese now, but Cheese will have the outside line for the final corner to set up a better exit. No. Hans able just to balk him a little bit. It's all going on here. And
Hans not caring about the concept of physics and inertia around this track. He's just going for it.
Yeah, he's just having a dip out there. I think that's Rutledge and Thrower side by side as well down the pit straight. Still got Termo in the lead, 1.5 seconds clear of Brap. Then we have Gristle, Cox who's dropped a spot, and Kempy and Burke, followed by Liccardo, Higginson, and Cecil, the man on screen. And he's a little bit wide though, is Cecil. Also being compromised a little bit from Higginson here. And Hans already got a nose ahead. but he's got Higginson right in front of him, so he can't go massively deep under brakes as they go into Honda corner. And there's Braxton way off in the boonies there. He'll almost end up in the paddock back there. It's around the outside goes Brunswick and holds on with Matt Cecil right in tow. So Hans having a big go. And again, good run out of Siberia, but he's not really got anywhere to make a move just yet. He's going to have to set it up for MG as they go through Lukey Heights. There's just a car width there as Higginson runs just a little bit wide. Brunswick going to force. Oh, there's a big slide under brakes. Higginson to go defensive, and he's going to try the up and under. A little bit of a nudge, but play on. And I'll let you get a word in a second, Rody. So, again, sideways for Higginson. Brunswick just wants to get the job done. He's compromised Higginson there as he's got his nose in and gets the job done. Higginson now going to come under threat from Cecil and Cheese in behind as Burke sets the fastest lap of the race.
All good. I was happy with the covering from me there because, and we nearly covered the gap perfectly because just as we stopped talking there with Hans moving down the front straight, my game locked up again. It's I think the fourth time it's done it tonight. So my little potato really not happy with the big grid we've got tonight. So I'm just getting back into the server now and keeping on the live timing. Good to see some people setting. I think I see some guys are in the back already starting to set in some PBs, and you're seeing something worth talking about.
Yeah, Brad, massive lock up into Honda corner. I thought he's going to spear into the back of Gersel there, but thankfully avoided all of that. So he's dropped down to 4th place now. Gersel's done a really good job to get himself back to 2nd place ahead of Coxey. But Termo has driven away the last couple laps. He's extended his lead. I wonder if someone's made a mistake in behind here. A little bit further back, we've got Kemp now under attack from Burke as Hans immediately just cuts a replay just to see he's caught up to the back of Ricardo very, very quickly and getting the job done at Lukey Heights there. So Brunswick on a charge, and we've still got well, pretty much 6 laps to go here, Rody. 9.6 seconds. Is it doable? Can he win this race? Surely not.
It'll be a case of how he can manage his tyre wear. Obviously, I think a lot of the guys now, as we said, a lot of the top guys now running the soft strategy. So it's a case of how they're managing that. Hans is a quick driver. He can be a very gentle driver when the car when he needs to be as well. I think that's what he's utilizing today.
So Higo trying to defend, and I don't think Cheese will be too happy with that. They're going to make 3 wide into turn 1. Higo up the inside of Cecil at turn 1. But Cheese got the better run out of the final corner, and Higginson just moved over on Cheese and made contact and put him on the grass there. So I don't think Cheese will be too pleased with that one. And poor run on the exit for Higginson, and Cecil's going to have a look, but Cecil's also under threat from Cheese behind, as well as Peter Thrower and a recovering Cam Rutledge.
Yeah, so this is, and we talk about the mid-pack, it's finding its way into battles, and this is where it's sort of sorted out. We've actually also got Pete Thrower looking to come in on this in the background too. And I think that's Steve Warwick actually just back there as well. So good recovery from Steve Warwick so far. He started off the second last row of the grid. He's already back up to 14th.
And a bit of a pack starting to form behind Kemp as Burke right out sideways through Lukey Heights. Bratt having to go defensive through Lukey Heights. And well, there he is, Hans Brunswick man of the moment right there. And well, he's looking to pick up and find him. Well, he's already got the gap down to the lead to 8.5 seconds, but the problem is he's got a lot of cars he's going to have to clear through here. Hasn't got the ideal run out of the final corner either, but Burke now looking to make a move on Kemp, who we all know is a very, very difficult man to pass. He's put his car in the middle of the road to make it difficult, but in the end has to succumb to Lockie Burke there. And just ahead, we've also got Coxey and Grusel starting to battle for second. Termo 4.3 seconds in the lead now. And Hans now looking to get ahead of Bratt. Is that a better run? So Bratt goes defensive at Stoner. And Hans, he's just going to go straight around the outside. Thank you very much. I'll take that because I'll have the inside for Honda as a lock-up from Kemp in front. Hans a little bit wide there, going to compromise his exit, but all happening at the moment. In fact, a little bit further back, we've got Higginson off the road at Honda as well, and he's not too pleased. He's flashing the lights, but to be fair, if he's been probably nudged off from Cheese there, I mean, probably nothing on Cheese there. Just a little bit of contact, and Higo just moving a little bit too far over.
Yeah, and that's something that we've noticed with Higo in the last couple of races. He's
we've got Coxie around.
Oh no!
And he's gonna have to wait. Oh, and he's rejoined right in front of Dane, so that'll be a post-race penalty. That one, that's an automatic one. But continue on, Rody.
Yeah, I completely lost what I was talking about there. So it doesn't matter. I've just moved up to look at the battle. Obviously now with Coxie out of there, it's now Kempy and Berkey with Hans ranging in on the back of Kempy.
So Hans ahead of Brap, and also dropped Brap. He needs to get by Kemp as soon as possible. He's a difficult man to pass. And going by the braking as well, or the brake performance, I'd say that Kemp's using anti-lock brakes, well I don't think Hans normally does.
I do remember Hans talking earlier tonight, whether he was planning on doing it or not. I remember him discussing turning all of this off. So he is doing the full sweat mode in trying to balance performance out tonight.
And, as you can see there, Kemp just parking his car in the middle of the road and making life very difficult for Hans here. These guys are faster than the leader, gap down at 7.5 seconds. But they're going to have to start going more than a second lap faster to close the gap down to Turmo. Turmo at this stage, 4.5 seconds over Grusel. So he can afford to just take it nice and easy, particularly through the fast left-handers.
Yeah, I don't think Grosel is necessarily his main threat. We've seen that Grosel has pace, but not quite in the supercar chassis platform just yet. His big threat at this point, just with how he's being charged into the field, although he is starting to lose that charge at the moment, just with his being stuck behind Kempy, is Hans. He's probably the biggest threat at the moment. That, and obviously Berkey was racing Tomo in the first two races, but it'd be a question as to how much more tyre Tomo's used over Berkey to get to where he's at, and whether that's going to necessitate something in the inverse towards the end of this race.
And we've got a penalty for Cracker there. I'm going to hazard a guess that's for speeding in the pit lane.
It is.
I did
He's
see
just
him
left
at the edge there, and there's Cheese getting by Cam Rutledge, and I'd say that Thrower's going to buy in here. They're going to go 3 wide into 1 as Cracker tries to get out of the way, and Cheese holding on, and Thrower's going to nip a position there as well. So, yeah, 2 positions lost for Rutledge. He'll be a little bit disappointed with himself there, but not much he could do. It's, well, Cheese undoes all his hard work, runs wide at Siberia, or not Siberia, at Southern Loop, and well, he's going to lose out to Peter Thrower now. But still has turn 4 to manage. Can he stick it up the inside? He tries it, outbrakes himself, almost spears into the back of the Red Bull. Oh, well, this is just a... Oh, cue the Benny Hill theme. They're all making mistakes left, right and centre there, but Thrower holds on. Cheese is 11th and Rutledge 3rd, but we'll move a little bit further ahead now. Brunswick still locked in that battle with Kemp. Can't quite get by him here. Going to try the up and under at MG. Not quite close enough. Now he's going to try and set it up, I'd imagine. The final corner. No, he might go earlier here because Kemp left the door open.
I've noticed as an aside while they're having this battle, all 3 of them have also caught Leonard Grosel.
Yeah, so Grosel tyres starting to fall off, or he's made a mistake here. Hans has got a great run off the final corner. He'll get this job done, I'd imagine, because he will be clear.
You have to make a late braking move because Kempy is not going to give it up. We've already seen that.
And no, Hans is like, I've got to get the nose in, and he's parked his car beautifully with that as well. So great driving from Brunswick. Also just enough space left there from Kemp as well. So good hard racing for 4th place. But Hans gets the job done, and now he's going to try and set his sights after Lachlan Burke. Lachlan Burke's only 5.7 seconds off the lead. But he's going to need a miracle or a mistake as Kemp up the inside at MG. And he'll get the job done on Brunswick there. So frustrating there. Well, it looks like a game freeze for Lachlan Burke there. But going by how deep Kemp is going, I'd say he's definitely on ABS. Braking that late and being able to pull it up without a locker, that's for sure. But Hans, he'll be frustrated, but he'll also be salivating because he does love a good scrap. And that game free is certainly buying Ursel a lot of time, as Kemp having to go defensive and goes a little bit deep to MG. Burke also deep. And, well, it's on for young and old here with a couple laps to go, Rody.
Yeah, and so this is going to help Arms in a way, because it puts them in a close enough position now that if you can get past one, it's not too much effort to get to the next one. It also helps Leonard as well with Burke's mistake, gives him a bit of breathing room. And here he goes again, trying to put that pass around the outside. He's actually got a lot better run, so he's actually going to be ahead of him coming into turn one.
And you'll get the toe.
He probably set himself up to at least put his nose in the mirror of Burke.
And he'll want to get ahead of Burke as soon as possible, because as we've seen, Kemp very, very strong into Honda. As Burke just plows a little bit, but it actually opens up the exit there. Nice double apex at Southern Loop, but don't think he's quite got the tyres underneath him at the moment, because Brunswick having a look. He's close enough to make a move. He's having a look. He's locked up the inside front. He's going to struggle to pull that up. He's off. He's off the San Remo there. So disaster for Hans. But he's certainly put on a show here.
He's only lost 2 spots in the end. It was lucky the gap that they pulled on the battle behind, which is...
Speaking of...
oh, yeah, that's busy. That's busy back here.
We'll just cut to a replay there. So Bratt running a little bit wide at Southern Loop. We've got Liccardo, Cecil and Cox all involved in that. Oh, and they went three wide. And Cecil getting the job done there. We'll cut live. And Cecil's got P6. And then it is Liccardo, Coxie and Brapp. So Brapp the big loser there. And Peter Thrower not too far away as well. So he's recovered nicely in the last couple of laps. But... Coxie now looking to make a move on Liccardo. A lot faster through MG. But Liccardo's car placement just making it difficult for Cox to maintain momentum, which you do need around the circuit. Yeah,
so obviously we've seen Coxie right toward the pointier end. He's got pace, so Dane knows all he's going to do is defend and defend safely. Go to the Nether School of Defensive Driving, and he'll be in a good position for the last few laps of this race.
And Coxie going to try the outside at turn one. You're not really going to get it done there. Might try and just stick it around the outside and send it up inside at turn two. No, not quite close enough. We saw a car off there at turn number one with a bit of smoke in the background, but that's not the case. But Turmo out in the lead at the moment, 4 seconds clear of Lennart Gersel. His best run of the season so far. Hasn't been the fastest, but he's kept it clean. And he's just ahead of Burke and Kemp, with Brunswick after that mistake a little bit further adrift. Now we've got Coxie and Liccardo battling it out for 6th place here. All kinds of sideways for Liccardo. He's struggling. His rear left in particular there. Coxie up the inside of Southern Loop. And I don't think Liccardo's really left him enough space there. Was alongside to make the move. And... looks like Coxie's going to redress the position, and Peter Thrall says, yeah, I'll take that, thank you very much. And so will Cam Rutledge, so Cam might steal that position away from Cam as well, and Cheese is itching to get another position. But we'll cut to Turmo, who is going to have to be in the post-race interviews with a race win there. So well done, Turmo. Good night for him. And Lennart Grosel getting his first podium in a supercar as well. Lockie Burke coming home in third. Kemp's made a mistake towards the back end of the lap as well. He'll finish well behind in 4th place, just ahead of... and there it is. There's the tyre going. There's the smoke. So his tyre just failing at the right point, really. With Cecil and Brunswick having a drag to the line there in the end, separated by half a second. And Peter Thrower there, home in 7th place after all that. Liccardo home in 8th. And then we have Daniel Cox in 9th place. Rutledge home in 10th, followed by Cheese and Warwick in 12th. Higginson home in 13th. Freakish in 14th. Lucky Block on his lid there. Now at turn 1, home in 15th. Braxton home in 16th. So a bit of a disaster for him these last 2 races. And then McLean Lynette home in 17th place. Taipan home in 18th. Bratt eventually coming home in 19th spot. So Yeah, he fell away quite badly those last couple laps. Gary Neville's going to cross the line without a bonnet, so he's had a severe off somewhere. Because there's, well, Brody, there's not many places around this circuit where you can lose a bonnet, so he's hit the wall hard somewhere. And got Josh Watson now just about to approach the line. Hashtag not last once again. He'll come home 21st ahead of Glenn Miles in 22nd with Cracker and Roy, the only retirements from race number 3. Alrighty, what do you make of that one?
I can pass less judgment on that one because I did miss a very crucial mid-lap there where the racing gave you no reason to pause for about 2 minutes, and that's probably the best 2 minutes of racing that I'd say it's probably amongst the best bits of racing we've had all night, and I saw precisely none of it. So I can let you know on that once I go back and watch the broadcast tomorrow. But no, that was as I said really into the race. It did start to form out the drivers into packs, and that mid pack wasn't always the same drivers. It was always about the same position, the same clump, and the same style of racing. And it was good racing. It wasn't necessarily like the hardest of racing, but there was still some good politeness in that, but some good hard racing. Obviously for Kempy, it's unfortunate for what happened to Hans in the end. But Kempy's not at fault for any of that. Kempy, that was a brilliant drive, and we've talked at length about how good his defensive driving is. And he was, I imagine, like Hans is not someone who won't get frustrated on the helmet. He will blow up if something is suitably annoying him. I don't think he's going to blow up at that. He'll just be miffed that he was just getting outfoxed by Kempy for a good part of that race. There's so many other cars that he got past, and he probably could have passed Berkey, he probably would have easily got past Leonard, but he just couldn't pass Kempy. And even when he passed Kempy, he then couldn't defend himself from Kempy. So look, at least in that race, I think driver of that race for me goes to Kempy, just going to keep the raging bull that was Hans in the Raise Energy car just behind him, and just outfoxed him in the end. But no, that was some great racing.
Yeah, it was some good racing. Turmo kept it nice and clean though. Once he got himself into the lead after the first lap, after the start really, and was never really headed all that much. But after that, again, in all 3 races, we saw massive battles for second, third, fourth, and fifth, and all throughout the top 10 in all the races. So do apologise. We would have missed quite a lot of it in all the races because there was a lot of battling going on, which is fantastic to see. But trying to think, I think we've had 3 different winners of each race as well, Rudy, which doesn't happen or hasn't happened all that often in Super 2 either. So see, we did have Hans take race 2, Turmo in race 3. Trying to think.
No, Turmo won race 1 as well.
So he's won 2 races. So there you go. So he's definitely going to have to speak in the post-race driver interviews. He can't. No one-word answers in this one. So he is here, and we might as well ask him. The superstar Turmo. Obviously, he's put in an incident report for stuff that happened in qualifying. But in the end, Turmo, it hasn't mattered. You went through, you took race 1, and you took race 2. So fantastic night, and certainly one of your better nights in ASR AMSL's history.
Yeah, Phillip Island is one of my strongest tracks in anything, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of the talk pre-race Turmo was the tyres. How did you find the tyres, and what was your strategies going into each race? Because we did see in race number 1 there, it looked like you were just trying to save your tyres, and it did seem to pay off with the other 2 in front of you in the end just running out of tyres, and you were able to just clean up.
Yeah, pretty much. I ran softs all 3 races, and the second race I used too much of the tyres and tried to catch Hans, and that didn't end up working, so I backed off and ended up costing me the podium, but oh well.
Yeah, well, you'll still take obviously tonight with 2 wins and 3 solid results. So Termo, well done, and good luck next round.
Thank you.
All right, Rady, why don't you take us away for the next couple interviews?
Alrighty, we'll swing over and have a chat to Hans Brunswick. First of all, Hans, can you confirm the rumours that you had the wrong final gear setting for qualifying?
Yes, I can.
You can. So that is what put you to the back of the grid for the first race.
Yes.
So obviously then the strategy for the first race was to try and set yourself up for the rest of the night. And then race 2, you just booked it out front and that was it. That's all you had to do was just manage the tyres to the end. How'd you find that race?
I thought the red carpet was rolled out for me in race 2 because Braxton wasn't in the grid spot ahead of me because he missed the start. So if he was in front of me, I probably wouldn't have gotten as good of a start. And then, I don't know, I don't know, maybe a promotion is in order if I weren't commentating.
And then that third race, that battle you had with Kempy, that was mega, mate. We were both watching that on the stream, and it was hard to look away from. Do you think he just outfoxed you there, or you just couldn't quite keep up with him?
No, well, see, Kempy and I, we raced in race 1 really well, and he put some good passes on me and all that, so it was really good. And then in race 3, it was also really good as well. But then what put me back was I tried to have a pass on Berkey, and then what happened was my front right was so destroyed that when I decided to have a big go under brakes, it just locked the right front straight away, and I just went straight off, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm not going to make the corner. So despite the fact I lifted off the brake pedal and tried to modulate the brake, it was definitely going to go off the road either way because you just weren't slowing down the car enough for the corner.
Not enough. Not enough braking force there. But aside from that, I take it you enjoyed. From what you're saying, you obviously enjoyed that battle both in race 1 and then with race 3 with Kempy.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a lot of good fun. I was a little bit in the wars in race 3 at the start, but that's okay. It was good to be able to fight through the field, and decided, I'd give myself a bit of an extra challenge and learn how to drive Phillip Island without traction control and ABS. So that was good, and great fun night was had by all.
Awesome, good to see. Thanks for chatting to us, Hans, and hopefully we're going to see you back for a few more races this year.
Yeah, it would be good. Yeah, hopefully. Thanks, boys.
Thank you. Alrighty, we'll swing across now and have a chat to Berkey. Berkey, you're one of the 3 guys, obviously we already talked to Termo, one of the 3 guys that was really pushing the soft strategy from the outset. Was it something you guys sort of all came to independently, or was there a bit of communication behind and all trying to maybe challenge yourself? I mean, obviously, I know that you said before tonight that you were definitely going to try the softs, was that sort of communication led to that, or was that just a happy accident that you were all 3, or you were pushing the same kind of pace across all 3 races?
I heard that Termo was going softs, and when I realized we had 3 races, I was like, my time on the softs, either way, with the pit stop, I was still going quicker than when I was on hards. So I decided I'd just take the gamble in the first race, and if it paid off, I would just keep doing it, and it paid off in the first race, so I just followed that strategy for the rest of them.
Awesome. And yeah, like you took some turns there, I'm pretty sure in the first race leading, and I'm guessing what happened towards the end there was it just your tires falling off a bit more than you'd like them to?
Yeah, I found that it was very hard to keep them. It was very hard to keep the tire wear down when you had clean air in front of you, because you get clean air and you're like, oh, finally I can push, and completely forget that you got to save your tires. So I found myself, I pushed a bit too hard, and at the end I had to back right off to try and save the tires.
Yeah, although at the end of the day, though, you still had some great results there. I think you picked up 3rd in each race, which is I think the highest consistency we've got from the finishes across tonight. So that'll give you a decent swag of points, and obviously you've shown you got the pace this season. You're feeling pretty strong about getting towards the pointy end of this championship towards the end?
Hopefully towards the end, I will get towards the pointy end of the championship. We'll just see how I go at different tracks.
Alrighty. Good to see you tonight, Berkey, and yeah, good luck for next round.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll swing across to have a chat to Daniel Cox now, the third of those 3 drivers that are running the soft tyres. And Coxie, that run in the first race, obviously you were managing to balance out tyre wear with a bit of race pace with Berkey, and then Termo just sort of swung in at the end from just from hanging back and got you at the end. But there must have been a pretty good race in the first one.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, like I thought he couldn't fit, or I thought I've got him here, and then he just squeezed past me. So I thought I could get him in the next couple of corners, but no, it was a good battle to the end, and I think that's his revenge. I think last season I got him the last lap for a position, and yeah, so that was a good race, and yeah, race 2. I think I was just trying to save tires, like because I don't know how Hans just brained us in the race 2. I think it was, but yeah, no, I was just trying to save my tires. I was going on a number. So race 1 sort of worked pretty much well. I just should have blocked, been a bit fatter in Honda, but yeah. So I think race 2, I'm trying to remember what happened. I'm just sort of a bit convoluted of the third race, because I do apologise to Dane, because I was coming over Lukey and Lennart sort of braked when I wasn't ready for him to brake, and just sort of put me off the whole rhythm of the corner. And then I think I just hit the corner coming down at the end of MG or Lukey, and as I was, because I was trying to spin on the grass, because I looked at the map, I thought, right, I got a chance to spin on the grass, so I tried to spin on the grass, and as I turned I'm wearing a VR helmet. I've got a cord, like it's corded. It got stuck as I was turning right, because I'm emulating this big wide curved screen in front of me, because it's not actually VR. It's VR, and as I turned, it sort of blinked, and that sort of I kept my foot on the pedal, and then it all happened in a second. I ran straight into Dane, so I apologize. I slowed down again, and then but I'll take the penalty of or I'll take the whatever's the punishment for unsafe rejoin, because I was trying to be safe, but I just mucked it up. And then I did tag him. Unfortunately, I tagged Dane again at Siberia, but I think he might have squeezed me. I haven't watched it, but I didn't want to risk it. I just redressed again, and I let the other people behind me pass. So sorry, Dane, for that crap in race 3. But yeah, I was just basically, the plan was save tires, and it was annoying in race 3 because everything was going to plan. My tire, I went right. I can start pushing now because everything else hitting the number, and yeah, just that whole, just where Lennard broke. I just wasn't prepared for it, and it just stuffed me up. So, but yeah, I've had two out of 3 good races, but I need to be consistent because I was saying I do 2 good races and I have 1 bad one. It turns, go from second, probably being second on the championship, to probably, I don't know, 6th or 5th now, or not in that. So I don't know. So anyway, I'll stop talking.
Yeah, from memory, we did have a look at the standings after the second race, and I believe you were sitting on the top after that second race. Obviously, you're going to drop back a bit after that third one, but you're still keeping around the pointy end, and you're sort of leading the charge of the guys that you don't need to have the outright pace to be winning a lot of races. You did obviously get your big break at Simmons, but otherwise you've just been able to be there or thereabouts, which is what kept you up the front of the points. So, good race tonight, Coxie. And
2 poles. I hope with 2 poles as well.
Yeah, exactly. That'll help as well. But yeah, good luck for
Thank you.
next round.
Thank you.
And Lewis, we'll switch back to you to have a chat to Leonard Grossel.
All right, and that I will. So, Lennart, first time up here in a supercar. You've been quite handy in everything else that you've driven so far in ASR. Simmons Plains, you were fairly solid, and again, the first 2 races, a little bit up and down, but you certainly had the consistency and pace there when you weren't getting knocked around a bit. What clicked for you in race 3 that perhaps didn't quite work out in races 1 and 2 tonight?
From the way that I experienced it, I sort of actually lost my rhythm in race 3. I felt better driving the car in races 1 and 2, but I just got caught up in a lot of unfortunate incidents, which sort of slowed me down, or just Yeah. But no, for race 3, I think I just got a bit lucky that the people behind me were fighting a bit, and I had some clean air to run in.
Well, certainly a solid night though. Yeah, you did look quite good in races 1 and 2. Didn't get the results, but still ended up second place in race 3, and you actually find yourself in 5th place in the standings there, and you're not too far away. So obviously you've not done too much running in these cars. How are you finding driving the supercar compared to the other cars that you've driven? And considering where you've been from when you started the season, how do you feel you've progressed since you've first driven the car?
I've certainly got to know the all the quirks and small bits that you have to know about these cars to be quick or decently quick in them. While they're harder to drive than anything that I'm racing here, I really do enjoy them the most out of the bunch. It's just really fun to drive them.
Is there anything in particular that you find most enjoyable, or is it just a combination that you're always sort of on an edge with the braking, the accelerating, and how much speed to carry into the corner?
Yeah, it really is just that. The combination of because I use a sequential stick shift to shift these and heel and toe and all that. It's just all parts of a car or of racing that I love is just combined in one car, really, for me.
All right, well that's good to hear, and you actually get to use a sequential shifter for a car that has a sequential shifter, so it's not always like that in sim racing. So it's good to see you putting it to good use, and you're finding your feet in the Super 2 Championship. So well done, and good luck for the next round.
Yep, cheers.
All right, well, almost done here, but I'll just give a quick rundown of the championship standings before any penalties may take place and alter it. So after the running tonight, Darren Kemp leads the championship, and again, just like race 1 or round 1 roadie, a driver leads the championship, hasn't got a podium. So it happened to Braxton in round 1, and now Darren Kemp. He hasn't got a podium, but leads the championship on 531 points, just 6 points ahead of Coxie, who thought he was going to be a little bit further down in the standings, but they've actually got about 30 points over Dane Liccardo on 492. Liccardo only 6 points ahead of a hard-charging Termo on 486, and then Gersel not too far away on 477. Peter Thrower on 471. He had some nice recovery drives tonight, but race 1 certainly cost him probably a spot, at least a spot in the standings. Braxton Stancliff, again, starting from the pits in his second race here, or third race here, costing him dearly. He's on 465. Lachlan Burke, DNF costing him as well on 461. But these guys will move closer to the top, so it's going to be a very intriguing battle all season long. Lachlan Burke on 461. Cheese on 432. And then we have Freakish 426, Cecil 423, and Taipan on 408. So all those guys are very close together. And then we have Brap 387, Higginson 348 points. And then there's a bit of a gap to Steve Warwick on 286, Hans on 273 after one night's work. If he'd done that in round 1, he'd be leading the standings, but obviously wasn't present for round number 1. Justin Cecil on 240. McLean at 233, Rutledge on 219, and Lockie Lock rounding out the top 20 in the standings. And that's where I will leave it. But I'll just bring up the schedule as well for Super 2. So the 14th of May is round 3 of the ASR Super 2 Championship from Queensland Raceway. Some people love it, some people hate it. A lot of people a bit indifferent, but Rody, I reckon it's going to throw up a few curveballs. The tyres are going to be an issue. And it usually throws up some unexpected results as well. So going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm personally a big fan of QR, which is part of the it is also part of the contract you sign when you race with PBF. But I normally have good results there myself, and I know it definitely does turn up some good racing. It's maybe not as much of a fan favorite as other popular racing tracks like Monza always turns like some good racing for us as an example. But yeah, it's definitely going to shake things up. It's a lot more, especially some of the guys that are new into this, like I'm dropping the name, Josh, like Josh.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, no, Josh, like Josh. That
Watson.
I used
Josh
to
Watson.
Josh Watson. They're used to driving supercars in a more point and squirt format. This is the new definition of point and squirt. You've got turn 1 and 2 where you get a bit of flow through, but even then you're knocking a gear or two off of what you're entering the corner with, and then it's hairpin, which is all about get the car through the corner, point it the direction of the corner, and squirt the throttle. That's all that it really is through there. So we'll definitely see a change of format from the guys that obviously prefer the point and squirt to the guys that are a bit better with getting the momentum, keeping the momentum up, that we saw tonight. So we're probably going to see another completely different shake-up of the order. We might end up coming out of it again with potentially another new championship leader who doesn't have a podium.
Yes.
I still see that happening.
Yeah, certainly a possibility. And after Queensland, we've got Barbagallo, which is almost like you could sort of merge some of the corners with Barbagallo with Phillip Island in a certain aspect where you've got to carry a little bit of speed through there. There's some undulation as well. So you've got a good mix of tracks, and then Hidden Valley as well on I think that's the 25th of June there as well. So good mix of circuits, but the next two, the flow, mighty important. And usually Queensland, as I said, throws up some good racing. Barbagallo as well. Chucked up some interesting results in Super 2 and in the Summer Series, so I do expect the next two rounds to be firecrackers out there coming up on the 14th of May and the 4th of June. Anyway, from myself, Lewis Wedding, and from Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes, we hope you've enjoyed tonight's broadcast of the ASR Super 2 Championship. And you'll catch us in a few weeks' time from Queensland Raceway.